Yeah, but they
And
generally choose some restrictions to make their lives easier, like living in a society,
sure,
which brings with it a
sure.
lot of rules. If I lived in a forest, I could run around naked all day. I could stand on my hands and jerk off into fucking trees. I could do, but I choose to restrict myself in a lot of fucking ways, and I think most people are okay with that trade-off.
Okay, well, like I'll give this example. There are like most women actually in Saudi Arabia. If you talk to them, they actually say they'd prefer to have the limited amount of rights they have now than have equal rights and responsibilities as men do.
Wait, that's
Um,
just proving my argument that people choose more restrictions in order to make themselves happier. So the animals would all want to wear burqas, basically, in the farm.
not necessarily. So, like, I don't know where I was going with that. Now I totally forgot. But anyway, um,
Vegan gains.
hey, what's up, man?
Nothing much. Just looking forward to a riveting conversation about veganism.
All right. Well, you just said you responded to me, when I was in the chat. You said lack of social consequences makes it okay to kill animals.
Oh no, I'm saying that's why I don't do it. I was like giving you like a descriptive position, not telling you like morally we ought to do something because of a thing. I was just explaining why.
So you're saying why you do it personally?
Yeah.
Because there's no social consequence?
Yep.
Okay, so have you maintained basically the same position from our last debate?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so essentially you're saying because animals cannot form a social contract with us, therefore it's okay for us to murder them?
Um. Yeah, basically that there will be like no repercussions for eating animals indefinitely. So yeah.
Okay, wait. Now you're basically going back on the position you basically just said it, like when you're responding to me in chat.
Which was
Like
what?
those are well, you said because there's no social repercussions for you, therefore it's morally okay to kill animals.
Oh, I don't think that there's like I don't believe that there are like objective moral truths in the world. So I just kind of like
Well,
nav.
it doesn't matter if they're like I'm not talking about there being objective moral truths. I
Oh, cool.
believe
Okay.
morality is subjective as well.
Oh well, if you believe
Um,
morality is subjective, then why should I care about animals?
okay, well that's we have our own sort of goals, right? Like we don't want to see children getting raped,
Sure. So
that
my
sort of
goal is to
thing.
maximize like human well-being. It's not.
Okay, if your
Yeah.
goal is to maximize human well-being,
Mm-hmm.
then clearly the world going vegan would maximize human well-being. Because if you read the UN's latest climate report, chapter 5, page 76,
Mm-hmm.
they actually outline how switching to a completely plant-based food system would improve food security. So it'd be able to produce more food,
Mm-hmm.
adequate nutrition for a larger population using less land than we currently have today.
Mm-hmm.
People on a plant-based diet live longer.
Mm-hmm.
They have lower risk of chronic disease.
Yeah.
The risk of zoonotic diseases, so like the coronavirus or any
Mm-hmm.
other new novel viruses that'll pop up, it's going to be massively reduced because we have less contact with animals.
Yeah.
And we're certainly not going to put them in, these tight confined spaces. We're not going to cage them. We're not going to put bats next to pangolins, that
Mm-hmm.
type of stupid shit. So if you're like interested in maximizing the well-being of the human species, then
Mm-hmm.
clearly you'd support veganism.
Yeah. In terms of like economic policy and in terms of like climate policy, of course. Yeah, for sure.
So then why the hell aren't you vegan?
Because me going vegan personally represents a great cost in my personal life and makes absolutely zero gains in terms of the overall climate of the planet. Why the fuck would I make such a huge sacrifice personally if other people weren't forced to do it?
Okay, so let's say banning slavery would be a huge benefit to the human race, which I'd say it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you are a slave owner, would
Wait,
you
let's move
not?
to less loaded examples because you're gonna do the thing where you're like,
No, no, no,
"What? Will
no,
you?"
no, no,
Yeah,
no,
no, no. I
no,
would
no,
like
no,
to.
no,
I like.
no, no. You're trying to weasel out of
I'm not
this. Look,
weaseling out, but the
change that
problem
to
is that
start
like
with
if I
vegan.
answer the hypothetical like honestly or accurately, like you're gonna take a sound clip and you're gonna put it, you like the dumbass fucking
No,
glasses on to make
no,
like the clip.
no, 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 no. I
Mm-hmm.
don't do that.
You
Look,
you
I'm not the
literally do.
type of
I
person
literally
to do
watched
that.
you make a response video where you like wear like the glasses and have the facial hair and you give like my answers verbatim to your things because you're posing like insane hypotheticals, which normally I don't mind entertaining. But like when I know you're gonna strum in the fuck out of me and like do emotional appeals
I'm
afterwards, like
not
it's
gonna.
just
What
really
do you mean?
annoying.
Okay, I made a response video to you once,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't recall doing any kind of skits.
Okay, for some reason I feel like I
I don't
remember
even.
skits of you
No, no,
where you wear
no.
like glasses and have facial hair and you were like wearing a lumberjack shirt or whatever. Are you sure that this isn't a video you've made before in the past?
Lumberjack shirt. I can't remember me making a video response to you
Uh huh.
and me doing any skits. I recall doing a pretty serious response where Basically, I was just responding to your position that animals can't form a social contract. But like, look, change. Like the point I'm trying to make here is that change has to start with you. If you want like to see the world go vegan, or if
Animals
you
that
want to
can
see
say
slavery be abolished,
something has them.
how the hell can you like support these things while owning slaves? You know what I mean?
Oh, well, my fundamental axiom is that I think we should do our best to like maximize human well-being. So I wouldn't be able to own slaves.
Right. Okay. And if you want to maximize human well-being, then why would you support the animal holocaust, which negatively impacts the human race?
Because me enslaving an individual like violates like to a huge maximum like my individual goal of maximizing human well-being. Me going vegan has a negligible impact on anything in society and represents a great cost personally to me.
Okay, well, the biggest choice you can make in terms of like your environmental impact, it's actually your diet. So I don't understand how you
The
could.
individual, do you understand and accept
Okay, well,
that the impact that any one individual has on climate change is negligible?
okay, any one individual, but the biggest change that you can personally make would be your diet. And
But that
again, if this is
individual
something,
change,
well, look,
do you understand that that individual change represents a great personal cost and does essentially nothing for the
what do
environment?
you mean a great personal
As
cost?
in, you have to make like a significant change to your life in order to do it.
No, you really don't.
Yeah, you really do.
No, like,
Yeah.
okay, so when you go to KFC,
Yeah,
okay,
you
so when you
really
go to
do. Yeah.
KFC,
Mhm.
you have to choose the plant-based burgers rather than get the normal burger. Like,
So
okay,
I'm not sure
wow.
like which like ultra fucking like shining white suburb you live in, but like finding like good vegan food in like every part of the world that you go to is usually pretty difficult.
It's
Making
usually
like
pretty easy.
sacrifices, it's not making sacrifices to go like with all like I know like I live in LA now, so there's like Impossible Burgers and all that shit in a lot of the places around here, but not every single place around the world, not even every single place in the U.S. is like that. And then food is like one of the hugest things of a person's life. Like literally, you eat like 2 or 3 times a day. You engage with food more than almost any other thing. And like the vegan substitutes right now for meat taste like shit compared to the actual thing. So in terms of like all the sacrifices I could make in my life, like going vegan would be like a pretty big one. Like it would be a pretty big detriment to like I would have to deal with like 2 times of the day for me. So yeah, I would say that's like a
Okay,
decent like
well,
drawback.
giving up on owning a slave would be a pretty big detriment to a slave owner.
Thankfully, owning a slave is like right there, like against my maximum of like maximizing human well-being. And not owning one slave makes a significant difference in the life of that one slave. Not participating in animal agriculture is basically a wash in society at the end of the day. It makes no difference.
Okay, so you're saying it would benefit the human race not to, partake in animal agriculture, but you're still going to support animal agriculture.
Yeah, I mean, I would vote against it if I had to, but in terms of like partaking in it, like whether or not I do or don't, at the end of the day is a wash. So what motivation do I have to partake in an activity that significantly harms me or changes my lifestyle, but
Well,
impacts
it
the
doesn't
environment?
harm you.
Okay. I guess we
Okay,
just
so
disagree what harm
extending
means.
your life expectancy, reducing your risk of chronic disease, reducing your environmental
First of
footprint.
all, you can
all
well,
those
hold
things
on
harm.
without Kish calling them anything. So you can reduce your risk of chronic disease and increase your diet all without eliminating animal products. Like significantly curbing your consumption of like red meats alone will probably get you halfway there, and then significantly curbing your consumption of dairy will probably get you like another quarter of the way there. You don't need to be on a complete plant-based diet to maximize your health. You just need to significantly reduce your intake of
No,
animal
no,
products.
you actually do. Being on a
How
100%
much do you want to
plant-based
bet
diet, you
right
need
now?
to.
Do you think? Do you
Okay,
think?
check out the Oxford
I don't
Vegetarian
need to check it out
Cohort.
because I've already read all these shitty vegan arguments before. Like
No,
if you compare
no, you haven't.
any plant-based diet, if you compare a plant-based diet to the average American diet where we massively
That's not what I'm
overconsume
talking
meat,
about.
okay, well then I just don't give a fuck that
So
much
if
then.
you okay,
I
so
would
if
rather
you
I would rather live
okay,
to be
so now
70
okay,
than
so
live to
now
be
when I can
80.
actually prove okay, so when I can actually prove what you're saying is wrong, you don't give a fuck anymore?
I don't I think that if you make a significant improvement to your diet, I don't think that means you have to cut all animal-based products out of it. I don't think you're right on that. If you want to like be something on that, I'd be interested. Like against like a healthy diet that incorporates like a
Yeah,
variety
that's what I'm
of
talking about.
what?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Oxford Vegetarian Cohort, I think the cohort's been going on for almost 2 decades now. They compare basically healthy meat eaters. So there's 4 different food or diet categories. There's meat eaters, infrequent meat eaters, pescatarians, vegetarians, and vegans. Only the vegetarians and vegans had a statistically significant reduced risk of all-cause mortality, and they also had.
Can you give me some numbers when you say significantly reduced risk? What does that mean?
Okay, let me actually find this for you. I'll look up the confidence interval here.
I don't need the confidence interval. I just want some numbers related to like, are we talking about people that live to like 83 versus people that live to like 81? Because I'll probably lose 2 years of my life at the worst end of my life, being very fucking old, to eat meat my entire life.
Let me just check here. So the study's called Mortality in Vegetarians and Comparable Non-Vegetarians in the United Kingdom. So yeah, this cohort's been going on for almost 2 decades. And if you scroll down
Yeah,
to
can you shoot it to me?
20, yeah, sure. I'll send you a link. So I'll just drop it in the chat here. So if you scroll down to page 25.
Wait, where is the chat? What is the chat?
Oh, I'm just in. Oh, okay. I see what you mean. I think it's in general that I dropped it in.
Like general
Yeah, general,
voice?
my dude.
General,
Yeah,
my dude.
Okay, I'll drop it in there.
Gotcha.
General, my dude. Okay, and if you scroll down to page 25, so the second paragraph on the right, they basically give you the confidence intervals. So this is deaths before age 90. So the HR for vegans was 0.92, confidence interval between 0.84, 0.99. The point estimate was 0.92. So that was the only diet group that was at a statistically significant reduced risk of all-cause mortality before the age of 90. So basically, based on the point estimate, you have an 8% lower risk of dying before 90 of all causes. Now, I know some people will argue that's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's not. You're not
Well,
selling me
no,
hard
no,
on
no,
that.
no.
And these are going to be like, you're giving me, I know, like the best
Well,
cherry pick
wait.
stats you can find is like an
Nope,
8%
nope.
reduced risk of mortality. Like,
Okay, well, listen, 8% reduced risk of all-cause mortality is pretty significant. If we're talking about cause-specific mortality, depending on what it is, you might be able to argue that it's not that significant. Like if you're talking about something like pancreatic cancer, that's not a huge reduced risk, but dying of all causes, 8%, like almost 10%, that's pretty big. That's relatively significant.
yeah,
So,
it's
and
like
that was the only
relatively,
diet.
yeah, like it's definitely
Well,
something to think. Like, I'll try to, you know what? I'll try to hit like the gym an extra day of the week to compensate for the risk then.
okay, well, I don't know if that would really be enough for you because this is a what do you call it? Multivariate analysis. So they factor in things like smoking, physical activity, things like that. They
Wait,
try
wait,
to
wait,
do
wait,
really
wait.
make sure it's an apples to apples comparison.
Hold on 1 second. Fuck. Okay, I'm sorry. Wait, I don't have time to go through this entire thing.
Well, you don't. Like I'm just
Wait, I'm
telling
just
you.
real quick because I'm just reading these results here. So there were 5,294 deaths before the age of 90 and over 1 million Y of follow-up. There was no significant difference in overall all-cause mortality between the diet groups. HRs and low
Yeah,
meat eaters, fish eaters, and vegetarians compared with regular meat eaters.
well, read the confidence intervals. It's like they say there was no difference, but if you read the confidence intervals, there was.
90,
I don't know why they wrote it that way.
95% confidence interval, 95% confidence interval, 95% confidence interval.
No. You're look at this is a 95% confidence interval, but look at the confidence interval themselves. Only the vegan group, it doesn't cross the null, which is 1. So confidence interval of 0.84 to 0.99. If it crosses the null, which is 1, then it wouldn't be statistically significant. So only the
Okay,
vegan
we got to move
group.
on to another argument. You're like, I know for a fact that because you do your life is vegan debates, if this is the best you have for me, then your argument sucks shit. Because I guarantee you that like there's going to be a million other things out there that probably argue against this, and like this is not very compelling. I'm sorry.
Dude, you just made the argument that you can optimize your health without eating entirely plant-based, and I
I
just
did
gave you
so.
pretty compelling
To be
evidence that you
clear, first of all, this is not very compelling. In fact, this is like strong evidence
that not
against that. I might use this in anti-vegan debates in the future. Thank you. And secondly, I didn't
why?
say that you could completely negate it. I said that the majority of like the horrible health impacts from the current diet probably aren't due to the fact that we eat any animal products at all, it's probably due to the fact that the diet is incredibly unhealthy, period. Whether we were eating animal products or not. Like, we could modify our diet greatly to be a lot healthier, but that doesn't mean eliminating all animal products from the diet. That's a really silly and arbitrary way of limiting the food intake.
Data disagrees with you.
Okay.
Why
If
are
you,
only the vegan? Okay, so tell me why only the vegan and vegetarian group had a statistically significant reduced risk of all-cause mortality.
okay, which page is that? Do I need to see this?
Well, I just told you it's page 225, and you read it out just now. Page 225.
No, I was
it's
literally reading the
paragraph
results from
on the right.
page 1.
Oh no. Okay, so it's page 225,
Okay,
and it's
page.
the second paragraph on the right, and it's underneath the table 2.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, reading the second paragraph. With 2 exceptions, there was no significant heterogeneity of risks between men and women, between never, former, and current smokers, or between low weight, normal weight, and overweight participants for any of the 6 most common causes of death.
Okay, no, you're not reading the right thing.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm on page
So it's underneath the
225.
table. 225. It's underneath table 2, so it's not the actual table. It's the rest of that page. So it's the second paragraph on the right. So it starts off when we exclude data for participants known to have changed diet group at least once during follow-up.
Okay, so sure. So when we excluded data for participants known to have changed diet group at least once during the follow-up, leaving data for 4,270 deaths before age 90, there was no significant difference in risk between diet groups for all causes of death combined as follows.
Right? And then if you actually read the confidence intervals...
Okay, I have a feeling you probably don't understand the stats here. Or are you telling me that so they just wrote it incorrectly then in this paragraph?
No, they wrote it correctly. It's just that sentence, there was no significant difference in risk between diet groups. That sentence is inaccurate because there was actually a
I'm sorry, dog. I'm gonna go with the researchers writing here over your interpretation of what the numbers mean. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
are you telling me? Are you telling me a confidence interval between 0.84 and 0.099 is not statistically significant?
what does that mean? What does a confidence interval of 0.84 to 0.99 mean?
Okay, so confidence interval, it's a statistical tool that gives you a good guess between where an outcome will lie. So if you have a confidence interval that does not cross the null being 1, then that would be statistically significant. And with a 95% confidence, you can say an outcome will fall somewhere between these 2 points.
Okay.
So
and your points for all of these,
and
look at the different confidence intervals you're given. So you've got 0.85 to 1.02.
Right.
You've got 0.81 to 1.02. You've got 0.84 to 0.99. Like, these are all almost identical.
Statistically significant. No. The one is statistically significant. The one isn't.
Do you want me to bring a stats person here to argue with you, or?
Okay, sure. If you want. Like, I mean, that is by definition statistically significant.
I don't understand how. Okay, hold on. Now I'm curious because now I want to know how the vegan brain works. So you're confident in and to be 100% honest, I'm a fucking music school dropout, okay? I don't do numbers and all that shit, okay? It's confusing to me, okay? You're confident that your interpretation of these numbers is more accurate than the actual publishers, the researchers of this paper.
Okay, dude, it doesn't matter what they say in the fucking sentence. What matters is the actual fucking data, the numbers. They could make write a song about fucking Christmas. Doesn't matter what the fuck they say. The numbers, the actual results are what matter.
Okay,
so
do you have is there like a graph of these numbers anywhere so that we can see, like, because this is like alt-writer logic right now. This is like I read the paper on like how brains and human IQ works, and even though the researchers disagree with me, like I saw the number. Like,
what are you talking about? We're talking about the results of the study.
No, we're not. No, there's a reason.
The author said in the sentence leading up to what the results reported are.
So there's a reason why laymen like us tend to stick to the abstracts. Like, these are published researchers working with a 2-decade-old cohort. No, you're not. But that's the problem. Is you're reading a sentence and you don't like the sentence. And
the data. What do you mean 2-decade-old?
Exactly. What I'm saying is that the researchers that are working on these papers probably know what they're talking about. So if they're going to tell me that there's not a statistical...
It doesn't fucking matter what the hell they said leading up to the actual numbers we're talking about. What matters is the actual numbers.
Okay. Because
what does it matter what the sentence says?
Because you're
It's
probably
the
reading
numbers
the
that
numbers
matter.
wrong.
How am I reading the numbers wrong? So do I not know what 0.099 is? Like, what are you talking about?
So not only was their sentence incorrect here, their sentence and the results were incorrect as well. You've managed to go through this study and you've divined the truth, like that stands in contrast to the results the researchers themselves give in the results paragraph of their page.
Okay, Destiny, I
Wait, can you
could
just
not
answer that yes or
give
no instead of
two
talking around that?
shits.
Like, can you
No, I'm not talking around it.
you're
Destiny,
talking
I only
around
care
it.
about the results of the paper. I don't care what the fucking researchers said about their findings.
Well, okay, I do. So that's just the difference. I'm a layman when it comes to this
Okay,
stuff.
so
So
you're gonna ignore. Okay, so you're just gonna flat out ignore the actual numbers, the actual results of the paper, and you're just gonna focus on what they said because that supports your viewpoint.
no,
Okay,
I'm
Destiny,
gonna
what
I'm
if this
gonna
was
go
the
with
other way around?
uh
Okay,
huh.
cool. What if this was the other way around? The numbers show that the vegan group actually died sooner. They had a higher increased risk of mortality, but the researchers said the opposite. Oh, look, the vegans lived longer. Would you care more about what the researchers said, even though the numbers and the data actually contradict their claims?
I don't. I'm not looking at the numbers themselves because I don't have a background in stats or
Okay,
know how to
cool.
interpret it. But I would
Okay,
I would read
cool.
what the results say. That's what I would read.
Okay, so Destiny, you're saying if the actual numbers that they reported showed that vegans had an increased risk of all-cause mortality, but the researcher said they had a decreased risk of all-cause mortality,
Like
then you're saying you'd still rely on what the researchers say rather than the actual data?
I'm yes, because I'm a layman. I can't interpret. I know you don't understand how any of this works. I'm sorry, I don't know what to say to
Okay,
you.
no, I
So
do. No, I do.
I'm
Okay,
reading
so
the
you've
conclusion of
never.
your paper that you linked me. This was your killer paper for me, and I assume you probably bring this out in every debate you have. Is United Kingdom-based vegetarians and comparable non-vegetarians have similar all-cause mortality. Differences found for specific causes of death merit further investigation. You're telling me that the researchers are all just fucking retarded. They don't know their own paper, they don't know their own data, even though they've worked with these data sets for 2 decades and they're in charge of publishing it. They're wrong and you're right.
Uh, that's one way of putting it.
Okay,
They
that's all I
might
needed to
have.
hear. All right, what's your next
Yeah,
argument then?
sure. Okay, dude. So you're actually admitting that you have no argument against the actual results, and you're just basically going off of what somebody said in the paper.
My guess, if I could find a guy that knew stats, my guess is you probably just don't know how to
Okay,
read
this
the
isn't.
confidence intervals.
No, this isn't.
Hmm.
Okay, dude. This isn't particularly difficult. Very basic way to read a confidence interval is if the confidence interval doesn't cross one. So if all the numbers are above one, or if all the numbers are below one, then that's a statistically significant finding. Okay, so since the confidence interval is 0.84 to 0.99, that's statistically significant. That's the only group that had a statistically significant reduced risk of all-cause mortality. It's very simple.
If it's
You
so
don't
simple,
need
then
to
why
get.
did the researchers mess all of this up?
Okay, well, they might not have messed it up. Maybe they have some sort of weird bias, and they didn't want to report that. I don't know. Vegans and vegetarians had a lower risk of all-cause mortality. It does happen that researchers working on these studies have some sort of weird bias.
Why would
Um,
they
there
be
was
so
There was a
so
Metarex. Okay, well, listen. There was a Metarex study that was published recently. The researchers clearly had a bias. They basically said because people just enjoy eating red meat, people should eat it. Like that was literally one of the things that was stated in the Metarex study.
like
So
this
yeah,
is literally an
have
Oxford
biases.
published study. This is an Oxford published study looking at
What
this
does that
cohort.
matter?
I,
Okay, so
it seems like
researchers
I feel
can't
like
have
the people would know
bias.
basic stats.
Okay, dude, you're telling me researchers can't have bias? They couldn't have made some sort of mistake here. They couldn't have made any kind of error with how they reported on this. Like, I'm going to go by the numbers, not what they said. Okay, so Destiny, you don't have an argument here. I think you're just going to have to accept that, yeah, the vegans and vegetarians in this paper, they were the only group that had a statistically significant reduced risk of all-cause mortality. Simple as that. It was at about the point estimate is about 8%.
Why would I
Okay, so
trust any if these guys don't even know how to do basic stats? Why would I
okay,
trust
wait. You're saying I don't know how to do basic
No,
stats.
I'm saying, well,
Can you
no,
explain
you
to me why?
clearly, no, you clearly know how to do stats, but these guys clearly have no fucking idea. So why would I trust any of their study?
Okay, Destiny, this sort of thing happens all the time, okay? Researchers, authors can make mistakes.
And it got past peer
Editors.
review and everything. This is an actual published thing that's been
So
followed for
you, okay,
decades.
So yeah, Destiny, there are plenty of mistakes that are published in research all the time.
Hold on.
I
This
don't know
isn't
what the hell that has to do.
sure. This isn't just like
Okay,
a. This
Destiny,
isn't
notice. Okay,
this.
so Destiny, notice how this isn't about you proving that these numbers don't mean anything. This is about you saying we should listen to the researchers who wrote this. So basically, you're just making an appeal to authority.
First of all, an appeal to authority is not a logical fallacy. A fallacious appeal to authority would be a logical fallacy. I am going to appeal to the authors of the study about the content of said study. I don't believe it's fallacious to do that, especially when every author that worked on the study is going to be more qualified than you or me to do basic statistic interpretation. The fact that this is not only peer reviewed and published, the fact that the very results in both the abstract and results section disagree with your conclusion makes me highly suspect that your interpretation is probably a little bit biased.
Okay, so you can't actually explain why I'm wrong. You're just basically saying, well, they're researchers, so they know more than you. That's not really a valid argument in my eyes. And Destiny, this sort of thing happens all the time. There's a recent study on uh, bone fracture risk. They totally fucked up basically their analysis rather than using. So what they did was they stratified for BMI and
I don't care about it. You're like, this isn't just like a random error. You literally are like you are literally telling me that the conclusion of this entire study is wrong because they can't do a basic stat check. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah. Okay, they might have done a stat check. It's just that their interpretation of it was wrong, or they dishonestly reported on it, or they were being, I don't know, maybe precautious.
Wait, who is the publisher of this study? Paul Abley is the first name on this paper.
Okay.
This guy is literally a fucking vegan.
Okay. Okay, Destiny, what the hell does this have to do with the actual numbers? You're not actually giving me an argument for why my interpretation of these results is wrong. You're basically saying, oh, okay, they wrote it down that way, so you're wrong.
You are the debate, bro. The people say that I am. How do I get rid of people like you? Why do you do this? Can't listen.
Okay,
wait.
Destiny,
I'm not even.
okay,
we're not having a debate. I just want to have
Destiny,
a human to human.
Can you explain why my interpretation of these results is wrong? Don't just say, oh,
I don't,
well, they wrote
I
it
don't
down
know
that
how to
way.
read. I don't really know much about stats. I never took stats. Was for
Okay,
losers
cool.
in school that wanted an
So then
easy
you don't have
GPA.
an
Okay,
argument.
I took
So,
calc.
okay, Destiny, since you don't have an argument, I think you're just going to have to accept for now that, guess what? In the study, they found that vegans and vegetarians had an 8% reduced risk of all-cause mortality compared to the other diet groups.
Can you show me the tables in this study that like analyze the different mortality rates among these diseases? I'm curious. Is it like listed anywhere in here?
Yeah, it's down lower. So if you just scroll down to table 3, number of deaths before age 90 and HRs for 95% confidence intervals, you can scroll down. It goes through all the cause-specific causes. So it goes from, let's see, malignant cancer, and it has cancer-specific sites, disease of the nervous system, circulatory disease, ischemic heart disease. You can just go through everything.
Okay, and how do I see like the percentage of the total groups? Does it list that in here or no?
What do you mean percentage of total?
So like I
group?
see like 686 regular meat eaters died of malignant cancer. Can I find out the percentage of the original sample size of that or no?
Well, okay, so it
like have you gone through and actually looked at the percentages here to see if it does support your conclusion?
What do you mean percentages?
Well, so what you're
people wait. So this is the number of people in the cohort that they're looking, and I think this is after taking out people. This is excluding participants known to have changed diet groups at least once during follow-up. So this isn't the entire cohort. This is just after they excluded participants. So this is 686 meat eaters after they excluded four participants known to have changed diet groups. And these are the HRs for, malignant cancer, colorectal, pancreas.
No, I understand that. I'm just trying to see these numbers listed as a percentage.
What do you mean as a percentage?
Like, I'm curious, as a percentage of the total participants, what did like a higher percentage of regular meat eaters die versus fish eaters? That's what I'm looking for to see if it because that should be the case then if your stats are correct.
Wait. What I'm not following.
Let's say that there were 1,000 meat eaters and 1,000 vegans, okay? And let's say they tracked the deaths. Let's say that they found 500 meat eaters died of cancer and only 400 like vegetarians died of cancer. It seems like meat eaters are more likely to die of cancer than vegetarians or something.
Well, the HR. Okay, so the HRs would tell you that.
What does HR mean again? Isn't that hazard ratio or something?
Yeah.
Okay, HR is 1.0 on all of what do you or
No, no. The HR is 1.0 for regular meat eaters. So that's basically the null that they're looking at. So that's like what's another word for it? That's basically the control group essentially that they're comparing everything to. And then low meat eaters, the point estimate was 0.93. So that's without factoring in BMI. But again, the confidence interval isn't statistically significant. It goes from 0.81 to 1.07. And for fish eaters, it's actually significantly lower. It's 0.76 confidence interval, significant 0.63 to 0.91. And then for vegans, vegetarians, it's 0.82, confidence interval 0.72 to 0.94.
wait, don't those
So
confidence intervals not matter because they don't go to 1.0 or whatever?
no, that means they're statistically significant, so they're below the null. So that
Okay,
means
so then how do you explain in the next one where we look at colorectum or whatever,
okay,
where it looks like vegetarians and vegans are at 1.05, and that's over like regular meat eaters, and that
yeah.
confidence interval is
So
0.72 to 1.53. So that should be like ultra confident, right?
no, no, no. So again, that's not statistically significant because So basically, when you're looking at a confidence interval, if it goes from 0.72 to 0.153, that means the actual outcome could be either below the null or over the null. So it's not statistically significant. The point estimate is 0.015, but really the outcome could be anything between 0.72 and 0.153. So it could be, protective. Like vegans could be at a lower risk of cancer of the colorectum, or they
Or
could
they
be at
could
a
be at a much higher risk. Yeah.
yeah, it could be. Um, but yeah, it's not statistically significant.
Okay.
So you
So
could
if we
say,
look down at like lung cancer, what about this, where it's
okay, lung.
0.92 compared to 1.06? Like low meat eaters are at 0.92, and
And yeah, so again, if you look at the confidence interval, they all cross the null, so it's not statistically
wait,
significant.
hold on. I'm sorry. Explain this to me. So low meat eaters is 0.92, and then the range is 0.63 to 1.33. And for
Right. So it
vegetarians and
crosses one.
vegans, it's 1.06 with the range being 0.73 to 1.55.
Yeah, so the point estimate is higher, but it's the confidence interval still crosses one. So it's not statistically significant. That's just the point estimate.
I, I feel like this is not how these. I feel like that's not how stats works, but honest to God, I
No,
just.
no, it
All
is.
right, hold on.
It's pretty simple.
Stats speaker, Sejin.
All right. This is so dumb. All right. Go to table 3. You're at the bottom, right?
Hold on. Table 3, bottom of table 3. Yes.
Yes. All causes, right?
Wait, all other wait, am I looking at all
Not
causes?
all other.
Yeah.
Below that, all causes.
Yes.
So
Wait.
our fucking standard regular eat meters 1.0. That's our baseline, right?
Yeah, baseline is 1.0. Yes.
So
Yep.
now we're given 95% confidence intervals, right?
Yes.
But this isn't. These numbers aren't like they're giving us the range, right? It doesn't matter. Like this doesn't matter. So it's saying that a low meat eater has a low end hazard ratio of 0.85 and up to
0.02.
1.02, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just as likely that if we can take the lower ranges of all of these, and fish eaters would be better off than vegans and vegetarians.
Okay. Or we take
Like,
the high
none
end
of
where there's
what
not much difference at all.
What do you mean? It's okay. So claiming that it's just as likely is, I don't think that's. Yeah, that's not.
Oh, hold on. I understand. Wait. So, okay. When Sejin, he keeps saying crossing the null. That doesn't mean anything, right? It's just a range that's given.
No, it does.
Dude.
What?
What we're given here is a range.
Yes. So these are. So hold on. Tell me if I'm understanding this correctly, because I feel like I.
No,
Okay. Hold on. Wait. Sejin, I'm just asking.
It does matter if it
When
crosses
this.
the null because that means no. It does matter if it crosses the null because the outcome could be anywhere in that range. So
Yeah,
if
but
it
all of these are
crosses
listed.
the null, then
All,
there's
These are hazard ratios. This isn't fuck, what's the word? Dude, oh my god, it's been so long since I took stats, but I know this.
No, if it
You're using
crosses the null, it could be at any point. It could be in any point in that confidence interval. So if
Yeah,
it
but
crosses
all of
the null,
these are
there's a
given.
chance.
when
No,
you're
if it
testing a
crosses
null,
the
you're
null,
doing that like this is way before. This is a different calculation you're talking about. What we're given here are ranges using the confidence interval of the hazard ratio.
Wait.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting it, dude. So look, if you're looking at the confidence interval, that means the outcome, the actual outcome you're looking for, it could be anywhere within that confidence interval. So if you have a confidence interval between 0.85 and 1.02, that means you could have an increased risk. So if it's between
No
0.85
range.
and
That's
1.02, you
implying
can't.
the confidence
Yeah,
interval
yeah,
or hazard
that's
ratio.
the range. That's the range for the confidence. That's the range for the confidence interval. The
But
hazard
you agree
ratio
that
could be
0.85
anywhere
to
within that range.
1.02.
Yeah, it could be anywhere within
You
that
agree
range.
that that's a range for the
Or what?
hazard ratio, right?
Right, and if it's anywhere within, if it could be anywhere within that range, if you could say with 95% confidence, it could be between 0.85 and 1.02. That means it could be at an increased risk, or it could be at a lower risk.
Wait,
Well,
hold on.
if
Wait. That's the, wait. Okay, wait. Can I just say this real quick? This is my understanding of this is literally all these numbers mean is there is a 95% chance that all-cause mortality for low meat eaters is between 0.85 and 1.02 of the null. Isn't that what that means? Or what am I wrong about there?
No, that's our hazard ratio. We're talking about that's strictly hazard ratio, right?
No, I
So
understand that, but I'm saying that like if doesn't the confidence interval just mean that like there's a 95% chance that the actual like all cause mortality for low meat eaters is probably what it lies between 0.85 and 1.02. Isn't that what that means?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's correct, but that wouldn't be considered statistically significant for determining increased or decreased risk. So
No,
you need to
that's not
retake stats 'cause
true.
Yeah,
don't
That's
understand
not
what's
true.
going on.
So
yes, it would.
for
If it
to
could-
determine
if
something
it-
is statistically significant, you have to use a test statistic. This is not inherently a test statistic. You're literally just looking at like confidence. You're just looking at the variability of your data.
Thank you so much.
You're not.
No,
You're
no,
not looking at anything.
No. If you could say with 95% confidence an outcome could be within this range, like 0.85 to 1.02, then you can't say with confidence that you have an increased or reduced risk. If you are below, or if all your numbers are below or over the null, you can say with 95% confidence you are at a reduced risk or at an increased risk. So what the hell are you talking about?
That's not true. I think
it
you're
is.
confounding confidence intervals in your and like test statistics. You
No,
can't
no.
say
Confidence intervals can be used to determine statistical significance. Absolutely can.
yeah, so when you do that, it's called a test statistic, which you're not given here.
What do you mean you're given the confidence interval?
You're just given a specific confidence interval. That's all. The only
Right,
thing
and
you can
with that,
extract
you
from
can
this is
determine.
the variability of your data. It's sort of like a
And with
measure of
that,
how.
no. And with that, you can determine statistical significance.
I'm pretty sure you're looking
That's
for
not true.
R value.
Yes,
And
you
what you're
can.
trying to do is you're conflating
No, I think you
this
mean p-value.
confidence interval with p-value shit.
If
Yeah,
you
that's
actually
correct.
if you actually use, you could do the same thing with p-value. If you use p-values here, it'd be what is it, below 0.05 if it's statistically significant.
Yeah,
It's
correct. I totally agree, but you're
you
not
would,
giving
yeah,
p-values here.
yeah. So you can use the confidence interval. It doesn't matter if you can just do this on your own. You can calculate p-values. If the confidence interval is below 1 for all the numbers, you're going to have a statistically significant p-value anyway. So,
That's not true.
yeah, it
But
is.
that
Yes,
doesn't
it
even
is.
prove your point because all of these have numbers are below 1.
No, no. If you look at
The
all
lower ranges are
causes,
what?
if you look at all causes, and if you look at the vegetarians and vegans, no. So all cause mortality point. So the point estimate's 0.92, and it goes from 0.84 to 0.99. That's below 1.
Wait, but so you're
And
saying that if in that vegetarians and vegans, if it went from 0.84 to 1.00 instead of
yeah, that wouldn't be
0.99,
statistically significant because it could be possible that the actual hazard ratio lies on 1. Just that 0.92 happens to be the point estimate. So you can't say with 95% confidence. You can't say with enough confidence that you're at a reduced risk. So the hazard ratio is lower than basically the control group, regular meat eaters. Then you can't say the findings are statistically significant.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is.
Wait, can you explain what like a p-value is? Can you?
Not
Do you know what
really.
a p-value is?
Not exactly. I'm not a statistics
Because it,
expert, but I
yeah.
know.
So it
Wait, how are
sounds
you
like
how are you
you're
arguing over statistics
confusing.
with a guy that's literally like a fucking vegan statistician or never mind. Sorry, I'm appealing to authority. now.
Daddy's
Go ahead.
favorite is a vegan
No. The
statistician.
publisher of
No,
this
not me,
paper,
the
Paul
publisher.
Appley, is literally he has a fucking degree in mathematical statistics.
I don't like. Again, I don't give a crap what was written in Destiny. I only care about the numbers.
Okay.
Well, he's agreeing
Well,
with
like-
us and disagreeing with you. So shut the fuck up, dude. You gotta retake stats, man.
Stop, Sejin.
Wait,
You're bullying.
no.
You're out.
Wait, I have a question for you. So if I have a fourth group here, I guess, and we have some inherent variability. Let's say that the point estimate is at 0.5, and then the range is from 0.3 to 1.3.
Okay.
But let's say that like the average is around like 0.5.
Right. The point estimate.
Right. So let's say the point estimate is significantly below 1, but
Okay.
the upper end of our 95% confidence interval is above 1.
Yeah. So
What would
that
you say
would
about that?
not. So that would not be a statistically significant finding because you can't say with high degree of confidence that I guess if we use this case, the hazard ratio is below 1. Like you're at a reduced risk of like an
That's-
outcome happening to you.
I don't think so. I don't know where you're getting this understanding from. That would most certainly be statistically significant if our baseline is 1 for some
Okay,
number
if
of samples, right?
Okay, so if the outcome could be anywhere
Wait,
between
really fast. Can you explain what?
0.3 and 1.3, how can you say that's a statistically significant finding? If you have a point
Because your point
0.5,
estimate is
how can you say
significantly.
that's statistically significant if the confidence interval is that wide and it
Right,
crosses.
exactly. Yeah, so if we have some sample, right? So let's look at the regular meat eaters. We're taking this as our control, right?
Okay.
So it looks like we have 1609 is our number of samples. Let's say on this we have some inherent variability in the HR value, right?
Okay.
So from there we have a standard deviation. And then how many standard deviations our point estimate is away from 1? That would be what's called a p-value. Or a t-value, or it's one of the test statistics, depends on what information you have. Right? Does that make sense? And then from a p-value, you can get statistical significance. But you can't just extract it given a 95% confidence interval. That's not how statistics works.
Okay, I'm pretty sure you're wrong. I'm not an expert on this, but pretty sure you're wrong.
All right,
Okay.
Ayas, you're in
I
to give a different
Okay.
explanation. Okay.
Okay.
You're up.
Okay.
What?
So first of all, I'm not a statistician. I have a PhD. I mean, I don't have a PhD, but I'm on my last year of PhD in physiology.
Oh my god.
But I'll try to. Okay, hold on. I'll try to explain you guys. So you have Discord, right? Like, if you go, can I send you like a link or?
No, can you
image?
just explain the fucking paper?
So here's the deal. When they show you, they say the mean is 1. It doesn't mean it is only 1. Every stat is a bell curve, and that doesn't mean that every single person that they checked is
Whoa.
has actually the mean of 1, right? That has a bell curve, and some people fall in,
Whoa.
for example, 0.76. Some people fall in, for example, 1.3. And if you pile them together, you have like a bell curve, and that bell curve has a mean of 1, and that is what that they are showing there. So if your confidence interval doesn't fall in 1, it doesn't mean that it is not overlapping with your control group at all. So for example, if that 1 is, as I just explained earlier, if it is consisting of confidence interval between like 0.7 and 1.3, whatever you're showing there on the graph, like 0.76 and 1.42, it still falls into that category or that population, right? So it doesn't mean, so it is overlapping with your control group, meaning that whatever you select from your experimental group has a plenty big chance of falling into the control group values, meaning that it can't be significant. So in order to actually test that, we do have a test called, we measure p-value, and p-value means that we have a different sort of like cutoffs for p-values, and we usually use 95%, meaning that 0.95 or 0.05 p-value. And if your p-value is lower than 0.05, we accept it as significant. And what it means is when you select, chances of whatever you select from your experimental group has 95% chance of not falling into your control group, meaning that not falling into that bell curve that I just described. So for example, if we talk about, let me just give you an example. So if you have a graph that is, again, confidence interval or a bell curve that is in between 0.7 and 1.3, and this is your control group, let's say, and you have an experimental group, right? An experimental group, let's say 1.4 to 1.7. Whatever you select in your experimental group is for sure not going to fall into that 0.7 to 1.3 bell curve, meaning that they are not overlapping at all, meaning that they should be statistically significantly different, right? Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any questions?
Okay, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to a doctor friend of mine about this who knows a fair bit about statistics, and I'll ask him about some of these things.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And
I mean,
I'll probably do a video about this later.
yeah, you can do that. And plus, whatever we are looking at your Destiny stream, it is when you look at the table at the very bottom, you see the hazard ratios, right? No, Destiny. Like,
yeah, table 3, I got it.
Same
I'm
table.
Yeah.
Go back to the same table, please.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So you see like two different groups. We don't really care about the middle two groups, right? We care about the meat eaters and vegetarians and vegans. And you see the hazard ratio. And hazard ratio means that if it's lower, meaning that whatever the ratio that you are looking for is has a less incidence of occurrence in that specific group. So for example, in this specific table, you are looking at death rates, right? So 0.92 to 1, meaning that it has a trend. It is not statistically significant, as I explained earlier. 0.92 means that it has a less hazard ratio, meaning that whatever we are looking at has a less incidence of occurrence, which is death rate, right? So vegetarians and vegans group has a less occurrence of death in that group compared to the regular meat eaters. It's not statistically significant, but there's a trend. When you go to, for example, other categories, for example, if you look at, I don't really see much on this table, but if you look at if you go up or look at just like in the other categories, you see that this HR ratio is actually higher in vegans and vegetarians in some of the
yeah, so like for
categories.
lung cancer, for instance, the hazard ratio appears to be higher, meaning there's a greater incidence of that particular thing compared to the regular meat eater group. Right?
Exactly, but when you look at it, like just look at the confidence interval. It's like 0.73 to 1.55, meaning that it has such a high bell curve, and it definitely crosses it's definitely going to cross your control group.
If something has a ratio of like 0.25 to like 1.01, does that mean it's just worthless because it crosses your null, or doesn't that still put that at the other end of that curve, or no?
Sorry, 1 point.
Let's say that your hazard ratio, let's say that it's a given it says 0.75, but then like your ratio or whatever, or your difference is going to be like, I don't know if it works this way, or say it's like 0.6 or whatever, and your ratio is like 0.2 up to like 1.0. Does that mean that that's just worthless because it goes up to that 1.0 thing, or? Does that crossing the null thing, is that a real thing? He kept saying crossing the null. Does that actually matter?
So null is your mean.
Yeah, I understand that. But I'm saying if your range crosses the null, does that all of a sudden mean that that range is worse than, say, another range that doesn't cross the null? Like what I'm asking is 0.23 to 0.97, is that better than like 0.26 to 1.01? Is the first one better than the last one because the last one crossed the null?
No. The only difference between the two is the center. That you're only changing the center. One isn't.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So
inherently
so the
moving.
idea that like
Yeah.
the confidence interval that range crossing the null doesn't actually mean anything, right?
I don't know what the null is.
When he says the
think
null,
he's
he means
confusing
1.0.
Test statistics for.
So here's the thing. Null is not actually a value, right? Null is, we have two hypotheses in science. We have null hypothesis and we have alternate hypothesis. And null hypothesis means that you are testing whether your experimental group is actually have sort of like a similar results to your control group. So meaning this is your null, meaning that you are actually proving that your experiment actually did not show any statistically significant results. So when he says it is different than null, it means that he is assuming that the mean is exactly at 1 and there's no bell curve going on. So it doesn't matter your whatever you just said, they are just arbitrary numbers. It doesn't matter. It's because what matters is you have two different groups, right? You also have control group. So depending on how your bell curve is defined in your control group, those two different groups that you just described might be significant, or they both might not be significant.
Okay, and then can you explain, just for my bad stats brain, why does this, like, so look at vegetarians and vegans at all-cause mortality is 0.92 compared to your control or whatever of 1.0. Why is that not statistically significant?
Sorry, say that again?
Why is the 0.92, even though that's like quite different from the 1.0, why is that not statistically significant?
It's because you have, okay, statistically significant means that, as I said, we are using the p-value of 95%, means we are testing the hypothesis. If we are choosing a value from our experimental group, that value is going to be 95% going to be outside of your control group. And control group means not just one, but that bell curve. So can you just like...
Oh, shit, hold on, wait. I'm brain blasting right now. I'm sorry. Let me know wait, I just want to ask one question, because if you answer this correctly, then if you say this, then I understand everything, okay? Okay. So you're telling me that it is so I'm looking at these as numbers, okay? But these are all bell curves. The 1.0 is a bell curve and the 0.92 is a bell curve, right?
Yes.
You're telling me that the reason why the 0.92 bell curve is not statistically significant is because the range of 0.84 to 0.99 has a large overlap of the bell curve of the 1.0 of the normal one? Is that what you're saying? Or am I missing?
You did it.
Okay,
You did it.
I understand everything.
And
then so real quick, just to elaborate on what Vegan is saying. So he's saying that crossing the null makes it not significant because if you cross the null, there is a higher likelihood, although I think not a guarantee, but a higher likelihood that you're going to have more overlap between the bell curve of the main number and the bell curve of your tested figure. Is that what he's saying?
If what you just said is true, if you have like a normal distribution. So for example, if your bell curve is actually skewed to one side, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Can I send you a link? Don't worry, it's not something
I think
inappropriate.
in terms of what you just said, I understand that. So if you don't have a normal distribution, but your bell curve is heavily skewed to the left, then it's possible that you could have a range of 0.85 to 1.1, but it could still be statistically significant if it's heavily skewed to the left and you're not overlapping your null.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So what I just sent you to on the chat. Actually, one of your viewers did this Cormactian in the Discord. So that just, if you just open that, it will just like visualize it pretty nicely. So shout out to him too.
Okay, and then so then another thing too. The number 1.0 then also in this case, and the way that he's using it, doesn't actually mean much because if it's a 0.99, there's probably also, assuming these are all normal distributions, a 0.99 is probably likely to have about as much overlap as a 1.0 or a 1.01 if it's all normal distributions, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, you know what? I'll look into a bit of this, and I will probably make a video.
Yeah, and also like this is like, don't ever say such a things as, okay, they didn't even like did the stats properly or not. Like these people are like putting like a lot of effort or whatever into it, and they actually know what they're doing. Like it is really
Like, look, I've seen plenty of research where they fudge stats or report it incorrectly, so I don't go by just what the authors say. I'm
Dude,
gonna look at the numbers. But
okay.
wrong.
I'm a PhD student, and
Great dude. I don't care what the authors say. I'll look at the numbers, but if you're saying I'm interpreting the numbers incorrectly, then I'll do some more research into stats and I'll ask somebody who's an expert about this, and I'll probably make a video response and talk about this, whether or not you're right or wrong.
okay, whatever you say, sure.
Okay. All right. Do you want to continue the veganism sort of?
Sure.
discussion?
Well, okay. I'm dragging these guys out. We're putting the stats conversation on hold. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so moving past the diet thing, yeah, I'd support legislation to ban meat eating and whatnot related to climate change reasons. I think that's a pretty good reason to do it. But me personally, I don't think I would because my personal sacrifice wouldn't do anything. Yeah.
You're saying it's too much of a personal sacrifice to you?
I'm saying that, yes, I wouldn't undertake a great personal sacrifice to make a negligent change in the environment.
Okay, and if a slave owner were to tell you, I'd support legislation to ban slavery, but I'm not going to make that personal sacrifice because it would massively impact me and my business, what would you say to them?
I think that there's a difference between causing a direct great harm to one individual versus a spread out harm across society. So, for instance, both of us are probably opposed to owning slaves. Both of us are probably opposed to forcing somebody in our backyard to create like a product or good for us, but both of us probably at one point in our lives would buy like Nike shoes or shorts made in a sweatshop over China. I think that when harms are spread out against population groups or massive quantities of things, yeah, that is a different thing.
Hold up there.
Yeah.
I'm not in favor. Okay, so it does happen in the supply chain sometimes where there is actually like literal slavery that goes on, where they're like force children to make shoes and they won't even get paid. I'm against that.
Yeah, but you probably don't go through and ultra edit every single product you buy to make sure that all of it is.
Not like you literally can't know. Like even
You could with enough research. Yeah, you probably could.
No, you can't. It's not possible. So even companies like this happens to Walmart, where
Well, if I wanted to buy ethically sourced stuff, I probably wouldn't start at Walmart.
well, just listen to me. This happened to Walmart recently. Basically, they'll hire contractors to make garments for them or shoes or something like that. And then what'll happen is some of these companies will get subcontractors to do the work for them, and then those subcontractors, without even notifying like Walmart, will like use child slavery. Like that does happen. So no, there are circumstances where even if you have inside knowledge with who these companies are getting their supplies from, it is oftentimes impossible for you to know where these products are coming from.
While that may or may not be the case, you could still make an effort. And whether you may or may not make the effort, all I'm pointing to is that I think there's a difference between committing like a general harm with a group of people across another group of people versus like a personal targeted harm. I think that it's different buying a shirt sold at a store that sources their stuff from another country that may or may not employ slave labor versus forcing a slave in your house to make clothing for you. Do you recognize a difference there, or do you think those two are the exact same thing?
Okay, wait. So the difference.
Wait. Hold on, real quick, because I notice you never answer a question I give, and you're going to talk around it and ask me a question. So wait. So my very clear, because you just made me answer a question about fucking slavery. So my very clear, very targeted question is there a moral difference between going to a store and buying a product that at some point along its supply chain was made using slave labor versus locking somebody in your house and forcing them to create clothing for you? Is there a moral distinction between those two events?
Okay, if you have
Oh my god, fuck. Sorry.
Okay, I'm answering your fucking question. If you have knowledge that, yeah, the product you're buying was actually made with real slave labor, then I wouldn't really make a moral distinction there.
Okay, we just totally disagree on that then. And then we should probably either argue about that point or...
So Destiny, so you're telling me that if you were to, I don't know, buy a shirt from a friend of yours who owns a slave and his slave made a t-shirt, you're saying there's a moral distinction there between you personally owning a slave and forcing him to make you a shirt?
No, I think that at that point, it's like a one-to-one thing. Like you can literally see the slave. But you're telling me that it's the exact same thing to be a white slave owner in the 1800s with a plantation of 100 slaves working the field as it is today for me to go to Walmart and buy a shirt that may or may not have been made by a slave overseas.
Oh, okay, well, dude,
Wait, do you recognize the distinction or not? Don't weasel on it. Own your answer, okay? Because you make me own a lot of uncomfortable answers. So I want you to own the answer to this question here.
There's a huge fucking difference there because you don't know if there was actually slave labor used to produce those goods.
So the ignorance is an excuse here? Is that you know that if you're buying, if you go to fucking Walmart or Target, if you go to Walmart or Target and you buy a shirt for fucking $4.99, it's probably made with slave labor at some point. Or if you buy a banana for 2 cents.
No, like, look, you there's a higher likelihood of something like worker exploitation, possibly, but no, as far as slave labor, no.
Okay, let's say, so we've went from it is impossible to buy a shirt knowing that it's not sourced from slave labor, all the way now to, well, hey, you could buy all of your clothes and maybe they were never made by slaves. That's an interesting point, but okay. Let's say that you knew for a fact that clothing in a store, at some point along the supply chain, that clothing was made by a slave. You're telling me that if a family goes to Walmart and they buy clothes to their kid, knowing that some kid overseas had to make it in shit conditions, shit labor, all of that, that person is the same moral culpability as a slave-owning plantation owner in the 1700s, 1800s.
Okay, it sounds like you're trying to conflate things.
You won't answer the question. No, this is bullshit. Hold on, because you did this to me. Let me be clear. Wait, let me be clear what happened.
Because in other countries, children can work at a younger age or something. That doesn't necessarily mean it's slavery.
You're a coward, dude. You're so fucking scared. This is bullshit. In our last debate, you made me answer a question.
The definition of slavery.
In our last debate, you made me answer a hypothetical question. In our last debate,
so we can
no. In our last, I don't have to. You're weaseling hard.
Define slavery so we can settle this.
No. In our last debate, you made me answer a question about a hypothetical human island of people that aren't capable of returning values to each other and whether or not you could kill those people. An impossible human group. And I answered that question honestly for you. And now when I ask you a pretty basic, pretty easy question, you refuse to answer. You're dancing so fucking hard around it because you realize that you don't have any moral conviction on it. That's bullshit, dude.
I'm not refusing to answer any question. I just have an issue with the question you're answering because you're not being clear. Define slavery.
Okay, in this case, slavery is when you have somebody forced to do work or labor that is unenjoyable, that have no other alternative like recourse in life. So somebody, yeah.
So so if you're going to use that definition and we assume the child was forced to do it, then yeah, I'd say
you would say that a family that goes to Walmart and buys clothing from the store that knows that there's a high chance that a child made it, they have the same level of moral culpability.
Again, you're trying to muddy the waters here.
I'm not muddying the waters. I'm trying to figure out what your position is.
Okay, so yeah, if you go to Walmart and you buy a shirt and you know that it was made from child slave labor, yes, I would say you're just as morally culpable of as a plantation.
Okay, thank you. I disagree with that. So we can argue on that point if you want, but I don't think anybody in your audience, very few people would agree that a family that goes to Walmart and buys a t-shirt has the same level of moral responsibility as a guy that literally buys, sells, and works slaves in fields.
Muddying the waters.
No.
We already established ignorance is a factor here. So
no, we're not talking about ignorance.
No, we already talked about this. If you know that you're buying from slave labor, actual slave labor as you defined it, then yeah, I'd say you're morally culpable. But then when you're explaining it, if a family goes and buys a t-shirt from Walmart, you're saying they're plantation owners? You're just being dishonest.
I'm not being the reason why I'm bringing up this example is because you're trying to compare me eating food, which is a ultra generalized harm, because I'm not individually killing an animal. I'm not individually talking to a guy that's killing an animal. I'm buying something that's mass produced from a company that's shipping this from around the fucking world. You're comparing that to me having a slave in my next room. 99% of humanity would recognize the distinction between owning a fucking slave versus going to a corporation and buying a shirt that at some point in the production line might involve some slave labor. Every fucking person in the universe would say yeah, both of those are probably bad, but they're definitely two very different things.
Okay, when did I make the connection between eating meat and slavery?
When you asked me, because that's fine, I can catch you up. So you asked me because I gave the answer that I'm not going to cause a great personal harm to myself, which is changing all of my dietary stuff. I'm not going to make that change if I know that there's not really going to be a net gain in society as a result. And then you said, oh, well, in that case, getting rid of a slave in your life would be like greatly negative to you. Like, would you say that you would keep a slave then? You made that comparison. And now what I'm attacking is that I don't think it's an analogous comparison, because owning a slave is a one-to-one individual direct harm on another person, but participating in like buying clothes made by slaves at some point of the supply chain, that's a much more generalized harm that's harder to completely and totally pin the blame on one individual for.
Harm. So what's the death count at now? 1.5 million people die from COVID. That's just a very general, harm that you don't think anybody would really benefit from if people stopped eating fucking bats and pangolins and shit.
No, I definitely think that's a thing that we could. I don't understand. What are you arguing here?
Okay, look, so I just gave you an example of direct harm being committed against human beings.
Wait, no. When I say direct harm, I'm talking about a one-to-one. I go to the next room and I kill or enslave somebody. When I say direct, that's what I'm saying, a one-to-one.
Oh, okay. So in order for something to be one-to-one, you buying meat would have to directly harm a person in some way?
I'm saying that to make your slave example analogous, I would have to be like literally polluting and destroying like one very specific area. So like to make your slave owning example analogous, I would have to walk into a room, slaughter a cow, pump all the greenhouse gases into like one person's house, fuck up their standard of living and everything. That would make that more analogous.
I can give you a great example of that.
Go for it.
There's a lot of poor black communities where they live around these, I think it's like a lot of these factory farms. So I think pigs especially, this is true of. They have these cesspits where they like pump out all this pig shit and piss into these pools. And in order to get rid of that pig piss and shit, they literally spray it into the air. Mm-hmm. And then it eventually, like that pig piss and shit, it eventually basically rains down on these poor black communities. It gives them a high risk of cancer, respiratory disease. It's just disgusting. It smells like shit, and they can't stay outside. That's an example of direct harm being committed against human beings.
Yeah.
Slaughterhouse workers, the people who have to, do all the shit.
I don't know why. I understand like the desire to like keep loading more and more here, but like if you want to treat me like an intelligent human being, I know that you like preaching in your YouTube videos, but you can just say that like, hey, here's an activity that has a lot of negative environmental consequences. We both know what that means. I don't know why you have to go into every single like.
Well, dude, I'm just giving you an example. You can cut me off anytime you want.
Okay, yeah, just say that there exists some pig farm, and the way that they get rid of the shit or clean it up causes like great harm to communities. Like that's called pollution. Yeah.
Okay, sure. That's an example. A lot of these flu outbreaks. Again, it's zoonotic disease. It's tracked. You can track it down to animal agriculture. So these chickens are the ones.
Yeah.
Spreading.
So these are all great reasons why we should probably crack down on animal agriculture. These aren't good reasons to make one individual stop eating meat.
Well, you're talking about direct harm being committed against human beings, like millions of deaths.
When I use the word direct here, what I'm saying is that one person bringing a harm unto one other person, and as opposed to one person engaging in an activity that generalizes harm to a whole population.
One person decided to fucking get a bat, bring it to the Wuhan fucking market, and put it next to a fucking pangolin. They didn't just harm one person, did they? That was like more 1 to 1.4 million. Okay, so
yeah, so that one person would be morally culpable for that, for sure.
1 to 1.4 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's worse than 1 to 1. 1 to 1.4 million, Destiny.
Okay, you're laughing, but you're actually like, I don't know if your brain is rotting, or let me see if I can explain this one more time, okay? Because we're not.
You literally said you're not going to go vegan personally because you buying meat doesn't cause 1-to-1 harm to another human being. Well, somebody doing that caused 1 to 1.4 million harm. So
I don't know why. I don't know what to say to you right now.
Yeah, I like
when I say direct harm, I can't explain this the same way. Okay, let's say that you have one person, okay? And let's say that person pulls out a gun and shoots one other person. That's a direct harm, okay? Now let's say that there is 1,000 people, and all these 1,000 people engage in an activity that might harm one other person. I would say that that's like an indirect harm. You're not doing it directly on a one-to-one level. That's what I'm saying. Because the problem is that, hold on. For one person, if one person is going to kill one person, that direct harm, I can say, hey, you one person, stop doing that. and that one person won't die. So that direct harm that they would bring upon that one person, if they just don't do that, they'd be fine. But for the 1,000 people,
You're not talking about direct harm, dude. You're talking about intent. Two different things. You are very clearly talking about intent.
I'm not talking.
You can go on. You can finish your thought. Sorry for cutting you off.
I'm not talking about intent. What I'm saying is that if 1,000 people are doing a thing that's going to bring harm on one person, it's hard to argue for any of those individual 1,000 people to stop doing their thing, because the other 999 are going to ensure that the harm is still done to that one person. So why would you remove one person from that group at great cost to themselves when the harm is still going to be done?
I'm not following this, dude. I just gave you an example of somebody eating.
Okay,
meat.
let's go with your same example. Coronavirus, right? COVID-19. That was your example, right? The coronavirus?
Sure.
Let's say that me and 10 other friends, I got 10 people to go vegan. Would that have stopped the coronavirus?
No, but
Then there you go. There's your whole argument defeated with your own example then. What's your next example?
No, dude.
Now, if we're
like,
going to do one-dimensional arguments, then that's your entire argument is defeated with your one example. What is your next argument?
No, dude. No. We still have to sort this out.
There's nothing to sort out. You brought up the coronavirus as like a direct harm, blah, blah, blah. And I'm asking you, if me and 10 other friends went vegan, would it have stopped the coronavirus? The answer is no. So it doesn't matter, because that was your example.
Okay, well, unfortunately, I wasn't friends with fucking dude who decided to eat a bat and bring it to fucking Wuhan and shit, okay? So, look, you were asking me to provide an example of 1-to-1 harm to human beings from eating meat. I gave an example of 1 to 1.4 fucking million harm, and that's not even including morbidity. So
Yeah, and me not eating meat wouldn't have changed that. Me not eating meat wouldn't have changed that. So what's my incentive here?
Yeah, but guess what? The people at Wuhan who decided to fucking eat bats, it would have changed that.
So it sounds like you should go be debating those people. Make those people be vegan.
Okay, well, you know what? You support this industry too. You support industries that spread, viruses like the flu. A new flu virus could pop up because of what you're eating, and you could be responsible.
Well, actually, as an avid Soylent drinker on stream, I am actually a big supporter of non-meat eating breakfast.
Do you eat chicken? Do you eat pork ever?
Yeah, I eat so much.
Yeah, those
chicken.
are animals that.
Wait, those are
spread-
animals? Pork and chicken?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm just getting educated. Go ahead.
Pig, yeah, chicken, pig. Those are animals that spread flu, dude. Novel flu viruses could pop up, and it's
So here's my
happened.
question: if I stop eating chicken, or if I stop eating pork, what are the chances that I prevent the next H1N1?
Okay, well, if we all end up not
Yes.
eating, we reduce our risk.
I agree. So if there's a law that makes it, or a social pressure, as we said earlier, if there was some legislation that was passed that said no more eating animals, yeah, I'd be all for that, 100%. Sure.
Okay, so whether or not a law gets passed, that's what determines morality.
Wait, what? What? Who's talking about morality right now? We're talking
Okay,
about whether I'm talking about the outcome. I'm talking descriptively. What will
Yeah, you
happen if
said
I
it.
stop a particular thing? And I'm asking you, if I stop eating chicken, is that going to prevent the next spread of like a flu or whatever? And the answer is obviously no, it's not. I'm not saying that makes it morally righteous or not. I'm just saying that like,
Okay, well, we were discussing what your moral values were. You were talking about maximizing the well-being of the human race, and apparently, according to you, it doesn't matter unless we pass it into law.
yeah, because I don't think that you can compel a person to act at great personal cost to
sure.
themselves if no one else is going to do it, and if that's not going to make a difference. I don't agree with that.
Well, dude, like, how are we going to make the sort of change if we don't create more people who are in support of that change?
Well, lab-grown meat is becoming a more popular thing, and hopefully the vegan substitutes get better and they don't taste like shit, and eventually you'll get there.
Well, they don't. Okay, what vegan substitutes have you tried, dude?
I've tried the Impossible Burger so far, and then I've tried the, there's one other one, I don't remember what it's called. Fuck, what's the name of that other Impossible Burger? Some people sell the Beyond Meat one. I've tried both of those. They're okay.
Like, how is that not good enough for you?
Because it doesn't taste like real fucking beef. It tastes okay, but it's like,
So torturing like an animal and like supporting,
you're
the
using
harm-
morally loaded words. You haven't given me a reason to care about the well-being of animals.
Oh, no reason to care. Why should I care about your well-being?
Well, you don't have to, but if you try to do anything to me, you're probably going to get arrested for it. So you're
Okay, well, okay, so can you give me a moral reason why I should care about your well-being and not just a legal reason?
not really, no. Why can you?
Not necessarily. if
Then
it's
we're in the
not-
same page. So why are you trying to ask me a gotcha when we're in the same boat? What?
Okay, so you're basically just saying you just flat out don't give a fuck.
No, I'm saying that there isn't any like objective, solid, grounding moral argument that you can give me to be invested in the well-being of animals, other than throwing me like loaded terms like you want to torture fucking animals, blah blah blah. Like you don't actually have an argument. We're in the same boat there.
To be like I've watched you for quite a while. You seem to care a lot about other people.
Yeah, maximizing human well-being is one of my fundamental beliefs.
Okay. And why not maximizing animal well-being? Why is that not a
So when you're introducing like moral compulsions onto me, you have to give me a reason to do something. Why not to do something? Why not maximize the well-being of chairs or door frames? Why not maximize the well-being of red crayon? What?
Not sentient.
Why should I maximize the well-being of something just because it's sentient?
Well, you're sentient.
Okay.
They're sentient. I'd say they have enough similarities to you where you should have an interest in in ensuring they have.
Why not maximize the well-being of everything that contains carbon?
Okay, well, not everything that contains carbon is sentient.
Why are you choosing sentience over carbon?
Because they can't experience well-being.
Why do you care about an experience of well-being or negative well-being?
Sorry?
Why do you care if something can experience well-being or not? How do you even define well-being? Plants experience well-being.
No, they don't.
I'm sure that a plant that's growing and healthy is experiencing...
No, by definition, they can't experience well-being. So we could define well-being as subjective feeling of, I don't know, goodness.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I guess we can... Yeah, sure. So we can beg the question you want. If we arbitrarily define well-being as something that things with a sentient experience can have, then I guess in terms of that well-being, then only sentient things can experience that. But then why care about all the sentient things?
Are you saying the typical definition of well-being that you use, a chair could experience well-being?
I mean, it depends on how you define well-being. I don't know if you just mean like flourishing, like biologically or not.
Normally go by. Are you saying the definition you normally go by, a chair could experience well-being?
It depends on what type of like well-being we're talking about, what type of flourishing we're talking about.
Okay, the definition.
You can laugh, but you've literally like walked into like a rake.
You're saying
you're walking into a door at every part of this debate.
A chair could experience well-being.
I guess it could.
Why are you even hanging on? It depends on what definition of well-being. I think you know what I mean.
Well, okay, define me well-being. Go ahead.
Okay, like I just said it. So, subjective experience of feeling good. Happiness.
How do you know that animals have a subjective experience of feeling good?
How do I know? Okay, so are you going to appeal to solipsism now?
Sure. How do you know other minds exist?
Okay, well, we're going to have to make some sort of fundamental assumptions.
And now... And the very reason why I didn't want to have this discussion has been brought forward because at the very beginning of this debate, I said I didn't want to talk about veganism because at the end of the day, you and I are going to have some fundamental assertion that we make with no fucking evidence. And your fundamental assertion is going to be something... I literally called this whole thing from the start.
Look, you have to make some assumptions. Like, we have to assume that, okay, we're not the only mind that exists. You do that too with... you're preaching about how you should vote for Biden and it's better for immigration and yada yada. So so what? You're saying you're stupid too because you're just assuming black people and Mexicans can experience fucking well-being and they're sentient?
No, I don't make any assumption. I don't make any assumptions about other minds. My fundamental axiom is that we should maximize human well-being. That's it.
Okay, well, how do you know humans can experience well-being and it's not just you?
I don't. But when I do human well-being, I'm included.
Like I am.
What?
Okay.
So I don't need to know if they can include well-being for it to be.
This is an argument when you have to do this. We have to make fundamental assumptions about our reality. We assume that other creatures with a brain, nervous system, nociceptors, they're probably sentient. So
I don't disagree with you here. You're making my argument though. What I'm telling you and what I said at the very beginning of this debate before you even came in, what I said, you can go back and clip it on a fucking Twitch clip or put it in your fucking straw man video where you shit all over me, is I said I don't want to have this discussion because it's going to root back into some ontological argument or some meta-ethics argument where we're going to be trying to have a discussion about some fundamental axiom that we just take at face value and we're going to disagree on that and neither of us are going to have an argument to budge either person off their position because these are fundamental assumptions that are made outside of the bounds of human knowledge. Like, what are other minds, or are other minds worth protecting, or other sentient...
Okay, Destiny, we agree that other minds exist, correct? So I don't know why we'd have to argue with that.
Sure, but you're making an additional assumption that we ought to defend like other sentient minds outside of human ones. And you can't give me a compelling reason to do that.
Okay, well, do you believe animals are sentient?
I don't know that. I don't make any claim about that.
You don't know
I have no idea.
Okay, so you don't think a cow with a brain, nervous system, nociceptors, similar overall body shape to you, like very similar body structures, You're saying you don't know if it's sentient or not?
No, I can't identify the part of the brain where sentience rises from. Can you confidently assert that they
Oh,
are?
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't think a cow is sentient? Okay.
I
So
don't know that. No, are you? Do you know that? Damn, dude, you should start publishing
Okay,
papers in neuroscience. People would love to talk to you.
Okay, cool. So the fact that it has a cerebrum, a nervous system, it has this like very similar overall brain structure to us. Like it has the same basic components. You're still not sure if it's sentient.
No, I have no idea. No, I don't know. Do those things make a sentient being? Do you know that for a fact?
We have to assume that. If
we don't have to assume that at all. You're assuming that because you want to win an argument. No,
they have the same structures that we assume create sentience. Then yeah, I think we're gonna have to assume that's sentient.
You have no idea if that's true or not. None of us know where sentience arises from.
Cool. Do people with autism, do people with Down syndrome, are they sentient?
I guess we don't really know, huh?
Oh, okay. So we don't know. So is it okay to just round them up and Holocaust them because we don't know for sure, Destiny?
No, because I don't base my moral system on some arbitrary thing like sentience that I can't know or prove. I base it around maximizing human well-being.
So can you actually prove that other people are sentient?
Not really, but I don't worry about sentience. I just maximize human well-being.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why the hell? Okay, how could a non-sentient being experience well-being?
I don't know if other beings experience well-being or not, but I don't care about that. That's not part of my moral system.
Okay, so no, you just said you care about human well-being.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can a non-sentient being experience well-being?
I don't know. I do things that I would imagine would cause me to experience well-being, or I listen to them tell me what helps them experience well-being.
Okay, well, you can't actually prove that they're sentient, Destiny, so what does that matter, what they tell you?
I guess it doesn't. Maybe they could all be lying to me. But at the end of the day, you're not getting me any closer to caring about animals than people, my dude. I'm sorry. Like, you're the one that's obsessing over this sentience well-being thing. Like, I only care about maximizing human experience.
So
I'm what?
You're really you're really struggling.
I'm not struggling at all. I'm ultra razor clear here. Can you give me one reason to care about the sentience of animals? You still haven't answered that question.
Dude, you've actually resorted to solipsism. I don't know if there other minds exist, and then
no, I don't need other minds to exist. You're the one that's making the assertion about caring about sentient beings' well-being.
You have to have other minds exist because you said you care about well-being. Well, why the hell would you care about well-being if something isn't sentient? How can something experience well-being without sentience?
I don't know if other things need to be sentient to experience well-being. But all I care, okay, sure.
Well-being.
Then I, you know what? Then I can modify that answer, and I could just say I care about maximizing human experience instead of well-being. There you go. Now make me care about animals. Make me care about the sentience of animals.
Okay, so you care about maximizing human experience.
Listen,
so
you're not trying to take on my moral system. You're trying to give me yours. So I'm asking you to prove why I should care about animal sentience.
Dude, can you experience anything if you're not sentient?
I don't know. Why should I care about animal sentience?
Experience suggests that you can have a subjective experience. How could you have a subjective experience?
Well, that's not circular at all. Why should I care about animal sentience?
Okay, Destiny, you're not answering my question. So you've moved it to experience. So, okay, can a rock experience anything?
Oh, fuck. Maybe I should care about rocks.
Okay, so I think you realize now that you're caught. Why should you care about animal sentience?
So I'm not caught. I'm literally just asking you why you should care about animal sentience. That's all I'm asking about.
Okay, so we'll move on. I think we've exhausted the human sentience thing. Why should you care about animal sentience? I'd say for the same reason you should... Okay, wait. Why should you care about animal sentience?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I would say because they can experience pain.
Why is them experiencing pain or suffering reasons for you to care about them?
Because there's this thing called empathy. You care about other human beings.
So does morality come from empathy? If you're empathetic towards something, then you are... Okay, so then people that feel empathetic towards empathetic towards like the destruction of property, like their cars, do the cars get like moral consideration now or something? Should they be treated as living things?
You don't have empathy for your car.
You really don't, dude. I don't know the last high school girl you met, but like people literally like fucking name their cars and shit, like in school. I shouldn't have said high school. That sounds weird. But I know that like when I was back in high school, everybody fucking names their fucking car. How are you telling me people don't have fucking empathy for these?
Do you know what empathy means? It means being able to understand someone else's feelings. So you're telling me that somebody has empathy for their fucking car's feelings, dude?
Yeah, people literally fucking cry over possessions and shit. People feel empathy for fucking like stuffed animals and stuff.
Oh my god, dude. Okay, buddy. crying over something.
Do you
and
think? Wait, hold
hearing
on. Do you think you can
car
think like a
not
fucking
empathy
cow? Wait, do you think you can think like a cow or a cat?
Yeah. I
Okay.
have enough in common with a cow or cat where I can understand if it's suffering, in pain, so on and so forth.
Okay.
I know when my cat's hungry. I know when it's bored. I know when it's hurting. So yeah, you can have empathy for a cat. You can understand that it's feeling pain. You can understand its emotions. You can't have empathy for a fucking car by definition, since it's understanding someone else's emotions. So why the hell would you use a term like empathy?
I don't think you can have empathy with like a cat or empathy with like a fish or empathy with a whale. But
Why?
maybe you have a greater imagination than me. Maybe
Well, why?
because you don't know what their experience is like. You have no fucking idea. I don't know why a cat would walk around a fucking neighborhood
Okay,
all day and eat its
so
ass out.
okay, so when a cat or a whale, like whales are much more intelligent than a cat, but when they have a brain, nervous system, they have a cerebrum, they have similar body structures to you that create sentience.
Well, you
And
don't
these
know if
also
they create
show-
sentience. You have no idea about that. But
Oh,
okay.
okay. So we don't know if human beings are sentient either, right?
Well, I mean, like we can
Are we
we
really
can
back to this?
probably
So
assume
we
they
don't
are
know.
because human beings are literally copies of each other in terms of structure. But like mammals aren't one-to-one copies. Like we all have slightly different brains and everything. But
Okay, so if a human being had a slightly different brain, so somebody with Down syndrome, you'd say not sentient?
I mean, they still have like the
We're
basic
really back
like
to this?
chromosomal structure to create like the same parts of the brain
Well,
that make them a human.
they're
But
different, dude. They're slightly different. So
well,
how can you be sure they're not
something could
exact
be.
copies?
Well, I'm curious. If you were to scoop out half the brain of somebody, do you think that that person would still have sentience?
Yeah, there are actually medical conditions
Mm-hmm.
where people have to have half of their brains removed.
So if you were to scoop out the entire prefrontal cortex of somebody and the entire midbrain of somebody, do you think that person would still have sentience? You just keep the brainstem and those parts alive to keep them.
Oh, just the brainstem? No, then they wouldn't. There is actually a thing called, I think it's anencephaly, where a person's born without a brain, but they do have the brain stem, and I think maybe some parts of the brain in some circumstances, but they're not considered sentient. No.
How much brain exactly do you need to be sentient? I don't think either of us
Well,
have the answer to that
so I
question.
think the neocortex is what's needed for
Like
sentience.
all I'm saying is that like sentience is an incredibly arbitrary line. To say that you know the experience of an animal is a little bit unbelievable to me. I don't think you can know the experience of like being a cat or a fish.
Or a Jew, or a black person, or a Mexican, or somebody with Down syndrome. Like their brains are slightly different.
Do you think the difference between a
my
human
brain is
being
slightly
do you think the difference between like a white person and a black person is the same as the difference between a white person and a fish?
Okay, no, it's a much more significant difference. But you're saying, how do you know if a different brain is sentient? How do you know if I'm sentient? How do you know if your girlfriend's sentient, dude? The brain's slightly different.
Okay.
Like, okay, Destiny, when they have similar structures that we assume to create it does create sentience, and when they have similar behaviors, they respond to pain, they respond to pleasurable things in a similar way that you do. Can we assume that maybe you understand how it's feeling?
Maybe, maybe not. I don't see how, going back to like the beginning of
what's
this,
your
I don't see
point?
how like empathy is like the source of morality. What about like farmers and people that have been killing animals for a long time that don't have empathy for those animals? Are those people like okay to do it then, or?
No, I'm not saying that a lack of empathy justifies something. I'm just saying the way we construct our moral systems, I do think empathy, at the very least, plays a very huge role there.
Okay, if we were to be in a society where people just didn't have empathy for animals because they were used to like hunting them and eating them, so like in any old like rural society, in those societies, then is it just moral to eat animals since they don't have empathy for them?
No, I literally just explained that I don't think a lack of empathy justifies killing.
Wait, you're begging
I
the
said-
question. You're defining empathy as feeling for animals when some people don't have those feelings, but you're just saying, well, if they don't, they're missing something. How can you define that? You're like you're begging so hard right here.
That's not what I'm doing. I was no. All I said was I think how we construct our moral systems. It's very likely that at the very least, empathy is what we base our moral systems on. At least most of us. There's some psychopaths where they
No
don't
one
have
is talking
empathy,
about a
but they might.
psychopath. I'm saying that like in an early human society where if they don't have empathy for animals and they eat them, how can you say like, well, that's just a lack of empathy for animals? I mean, they have a lack of empathy for trees, but like I don't see how that's a real
early
argument.
Human societies had a lack of empathy for other human beings, so like I don't know why you're trailing off on this.
I'm not trailing off. Well, now you're proving my argument then that like morality is like a little bit like subjective and that using empathy as a defining factor for whether or not that makes it.
No. I never used empathy as a defining factor.
Yes, you did. You're literally arguing that empathy is a source of.
No, I said most of us probably base our moral systems on empathy, and I think you do too. You seem to care about how.
You're implying, but when I asked you why we should care for animals, and then you said, well, we're empathetic towards animals, so you're implying that could be a source of.
Wait, Destiny. Okay. I think we should be logically consistent with our moral beliefs, even if we're making some basic assumptions about things. So, like you assuming that other human beings can think and feel like you can. Convince me that Nazis should care about Jews. Why should Nazis care about Jews?
I don't think I can convince you of any axiomatic statement. I don't think I could. That's why in my original argument, when you asked me about like an island of people that don't reciprocate human values, if somebody was like fundamentally incompatible at that point, then I mean, I don't think these people can coexist. I don't know if you can like argue some fundamental moral position to someone else.
You said, okay, dude, what you said was if they cannot, what was it? If they can't adhere to your social contract or reciprocate values, then it's okay for you to genocide them.
What I said was that if any person, I said that if any person would like wander onto that island and they would like murder and rape anybody that walked up, then yeah, you can kill these people.
No, that's not.
That is exactly what I said. That is the implication of what I said. You're trying to make it sound like.
Go back and look at that debate.
Yeah, you can if you want to. Well, the problem is that, because in that debate, like I assumed that you were like asking me like a good faith hypothetical. I didn't know you were going to put on a fucking lumberjack outfit afterwards and give me a worst possible interpretation of like.
Let me actually look and see if I did that.
You did.
I'm pretty sure my video would still be up. I don't know if I actually. Maybe I just quickly. Maybe it was a short skit where I kind of made fun of your position. Let me see.
Yeah, we got.
Destiny versus vegan gains. Okay, so
we got like 11 minutes. Like I'm pretty sure we have like a few skits here where you're dressed up in some weird ass fucking hat, like jerking off to like killing animals and shit. Like.
What is pain
I did nearly a okay. I must have misremembered.
It's all good. Don't worry. It happens pretty frequently, surprisingly, to people that debate me. But yeah. Anyway, so like you walked away from that example trying to say like Destiny wants to fucking Hiroshima random groups of indigenous people. And I even answered you carefully. I even said, I don't believe any human being exists as you describe, but given your hypothetical, if there was some group of human beings that would savagely murder and rape any other group of humans they saw, yeah, I wouldn't give any moral consideration to those people. But I qualified this 30 times.
Like Sentinelese.
What?
Sentinelese. They murder everybody who comes near their island.
That's fine. What I'm telling you is that...
So you'd be fine with murdering...
I don't think that these people are incapable of reciprocating. But what I'm saying is that, like, I wouldn't have, like, any moral problems with it. No. If they were, like, preventing, like, or hindering human progress or something, no, I would say that, like, this...
Okay, suppose they weren't. Okay, suppose the Sentinelese were incapable of sharing values with other human beings. No matter what you did, they'd try to kill you, but they're trapped on their island. Nobody gave a shit. They're not harming anyone. You'd still be okay with somebody like a commando squad going there and murdering everybody.
I don't know why the fuck a commando squad would go there, but I would be indifferent to any group of humans that would just rape and murder any other human that showed up. Yes.
Okay. That's
cool, yeah.
That's what we discussed in the debate.
Okay,
I'm pretty
cool.
sure that's
I generally just like for the rest of my like moral positions, I generally take positions against rapists and murderers. But like that's just like on my stream. I don't know like on the vegan game stream.
Well,
like,
it seems like they only rape and murder outsiders.
Oh, so it's better. So that makes it better. You only rape and murder people that aren't from your society. That's your position on that?
Yeah, I think it makes it a little better because if you don't fuck with them, you're not going to do it.
Okay, true. All right. As long as you don't wander over there or whatever, that makes it better. Okay.
Okay, so you would still be in favor of, or not necessarily in favor, you'd be indifferent to just having a commando squad murder everybody.
A group of people that would try to like rape and murder them? Yeah, I mean, it's like, that sounds like some Kill or Be Killed shit, yeah.
Well, no, it's not Kill or Be Killed because you could choose not to go over to fucking Sentinelese Island that doesn't have shit on it.
Well, and I mean, these people could probably also not choose to rape and murder anybody that would try to approach them.
Yeah, and you could choose not to approach them.
Okay, yeah, if you don't want to, go for it. But if somebody does, I'm not going to lose any fucking sleep over it. Like, what?
Okay, so you're saying you'd be indifferent to a commando squad wiping out the Sentinelese, assuming they can't have any outside human contact?
Would I be indifferent to somebody killing a group of people that were rapists and murderers of anybody from an outside society that showed up? I mean, yeah, I don't think I would care that much.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Okay.
I understand
I'm
that.
pretty
So
sure
your position on this was, if you rape and murder people, if they're from an outside society, that's like okay, was your position, or it's more understandable.
No, I'm just
I
saying,
think that's what you
like,
said
why
verbatim, basically.
you murder a group of people when they're not harming you.
I think verbatim earlier you said that like I can understand wanting to rape and murder anybody from like an outside society. I think that's what you said.
That's not what I said.
Are you
That's not what I
sure?
said here or in the debate.
Wait, are you sure that's not? Wait, so then do you think it's okay that they would rape and murder people from outside societies or not?
No, but my point is, if you don't mess with them, if you don't go near them, they're not gonna fucking do that. So why the fuck murder them?
Let's say that I lived on a block and on my house, I had a sign said anybody that comes into my yard gets to be raped and murdered. And let's say somebody saw that, like, oh shit, and somebody wanders in my yard and then I rape and murder them. Am I okay there since I gave them warning?
Well, if they don't see it, then
Well, what if they see
no.
the sign? If they see the sign, then I can rape and murder them as long as I gave them warning?
Fuck it, I guess. Like I'm one of those people who I'm fine with suicide. I'm fine with consenting combat. So if somebody consents to being raped and murdered, then I guess it couldn't be rape if they want it to happen.
What if they thought like, no way is this guy actually gonna rape and murder me? They didn't know it was the vegan Gaines household though. They walk up, they see the sign, it's like no fucking way. And they go onto the yard and you're okay to just rape and murder them. That's fine.
I'd have to think about that. I'm not sure.
Okay. I generally like take the position against like rapists and murderers, but it's a cool gotcha question.
Sure.
That and infinitely holocausting animals and autistic people, or whatever you guys talk about in the vegan debate servers.
Like, anyway, I think you can see how most people aren't going to wander onto North Sentinel Island. The government actually prohibits anyone from going anywhere near there. It's pretty well-known territory, so I think any reasonable person would say, okay, if these people are, violent towards outsiders, maybe we should just leave them alone and let them live, rather than just having a commando squad go over there and murder everyone for no reason.
I'm curious. Let's say that there was a medicine or some plant that existed on this island that had like the cure for some cancer or something for fish eaters. Do you think it would be morally acceptable to go onto that island and kill anybody that interferes with you trying to procure that plant?
If you absolutely needed to, so if you needed to use lethal force to stop them, I'd say it would be morally acceptable to do so because you're doing something that's valuable for the human race. It'd save far more people.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, but we're not talking about that. Like, we're talking about just an island of people who, I don't know, just eat shit on an island and shit and fuck and have weird tribal babies and not really doing much.
Murder and rape any outsider that shows up, yeah.
Well, I don't know if they rape anyone. It looks like they just murder them, but yeah, I mean, why would you murder everyone who seems to be living there just fine?
I have no idea why anybody. It sounds like a total waste of time and money and energy. I don't know why anybody would do that. It sounds really fucking weird.
Okay, but anyway, you'd still be indifferent to just having somebody wipe them out.
Yeah, I don't really care about like murderers and rapists much. Yeah.
Okay, well, they wouldn't be murderers if they you don't go near them.
What kind of fucking argument is that? Like, the guy wouldn't have murdered anyone if no one got near him.
Yeah. Okay, if you have weird tribal people and they're just doing their own thing, they have their own sovereignty on their island and they don't want you coming there, what's the issue? Like, dude,
I don't really. It's 2020. I don't really care about like people that are gonna like murder anybody that comes near them. It sounds like a group of people that are bad hombres, man, as Trump would say.
Okay, dude. How about if you were to go to any country without like a passport, whatever, and there was no way to remove you from that country without lethal force? Are you saying now that it's okay to wipe out Canada, the USA, like Pakistan, because that okay, they don't want you there either, unless like you go through legal channels.
I think that these people have like established like escalation forces and have processes for like entry and leaving, and also these people have like mutually respected laws and processes with other countries. If this group of people that you were talking about had like trade relations or like relations with other countries, like, oh yeah, like here's the established doctrine for our country, blah blah blah. If you come here, like you're probably going to die or whatever, I'd be like a little bit different. I'm like, yeah, okay, this makes more sense, sure. But if it's just a group of people that just fucking murder anybody that walks by, I think that's substantially different. Yeah.
That's okay. Well, that's how they choose to run their own territory.
That's great.
I
And your
don't see
choices
how
have
that's
consequences.
significantly-
Like there's serial
Look,
killers that
I don't
choose to
see how
serial
that's
kill. Yeah.
meaningfully different. I don't see how that's meaningfully different than somewhere like North Korea or China, where okay, if you go there illegally and you refuse to leave, yeah, they're probably going to kill you.
I mean, like, I imagine that just, I guess maybe for North Korea, they would instantly kill you. But I mean, I would consider that to be pretty
I don't
immoral
know
as
if they'd
well.
instantly kill you.
I feel like if you
okay,
cross
well,
like
if you-
the fucking non-aggression zone or whatever, that parallel, I'm pretty sure you'd get shot and killed. But
Yeah, well, I mean, any country, if you were there illegally and there was no other way to remove you without
Mhm.
lethal force, I think they probably would go to that level. So I don't see how that's meaningfully different than the Sentinelese.
you don't see how there's a meaningful difference between me going to a country, them saying, hey, you're not allowed here, them saying, hey, we're going to try to arrest you, them saying, hey, you're fighting our cops, we're going to restrain you, them saying, hey, you're fighting the restraints, we're going to kill you. You don't see a difference between that escalation of like mutually understood laws versus a society of people going ooga booga, rape and murder you because we see you. You don't think there's a difference between those two things?
Okay, dude, again, I don't think the Sentinelese murder anybody. I think they use bows and arrows to just kill you. Maybe they rape your corpse after, but anyway, no, because you already know like what's going to fucking happen.
Okay. What's the next? What's the next?
Pretty fucking funny.
What's the next argument? Okay. What's the next point? Where are we at right now?
Okay, well, dude, if
Mhm.
you're going to care about other human beings, because why do you care about other human beings? Actually,
It's totally arbitrary. I don't know. I just think humans are worth protecting.
you just think human beings are worth protecting?
Yeah, it's pretty arbitrary. But I mean, we all start from arbitrary points, so it seems as good a place as any.
Okay, well, I think in order to be consistent with these beliefs, you should care about the well-being of other beings that can experience well-being.
Why?
Well, because they share enough traits.
Why does
with the
sharing
human
traits mean that you're worth caring about morally?
Again, I like you're basing this fundamental axiom on like the ability to experience well-being.
Not really.
essentially.
I just care about other
Kind
human
of.
lives.
Sorry.
I just care about other human lives. That's it. Like it's literally asserted with no evidence. That's it. Just protect other human lives. That's it.
Just protect other human lives.
Yeah, like maximize other human lives. That's it. That's literally it. It's just arbitrary. There's no justification for it. Nothing to do with sentience. Nothing to do with any other shit or whatever.
Okay, so you wouldn't care if there were non-sentient. So you'd still care about human beings if they were non-sentient?
Yeah, probably.
Really? Okay, so if a human being, so if all the human race had no sentience, could not experience well-being, you'd still care about them.
I guess. I mean, I wouldn't really know, right? Philosophical zombies and all that.
Okay, well, no. No. Let's assume we know for a fact you are the only human being that has sentience. Everyone else, we can prove without any doubt that every other human being is non-sentient. You'd say you'd still care about human beings?
I guess if we could actually prove it at that point, I guess not.
So, okay, so then you do fundamentally care about sentience.
Not necessarily. Or like sentience, I guess, might be a part of it, but it's not the only part. Like sentience might be like sufficient, but not like, or it might be necessary, but not sufficient, right?
Okay, so we need sentience, and what else do we need?
To be human. Those two things.
Okay, sentience and humanity.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's assume you're the only human, and every other person who looks like they're human, they're not actually human.
Okay.
You'd be fine with wiping everyone out because they don't have the same chromosomes that you do?
Sure.
Okay. Look, if you're gonna play that game, then I don't know.
Okay, I'm
man.
sorry. Hold on. Let me be serious. Entertaining the hypothetical where everybody else is a human, but they're actually not.
So you said that you need sentience to have moral consideration, but it's not sufficient
Sure,
to have moral
necessary but not
consideration.
sufficient. Sure.
Sentience along with something else.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
So we've already established you do need sentience, but what's that other thing?
being human.
Okay, so if every other person who looked human, so like your girlfriend, your child, name everyone on the planet,
Hmm.
let's just say they were not human. They did not have the same chromosomes as you. Whatever definition you use for human, they're not human. You'd be fine with wiping them out?
Well, I guess if everybody was like that, I'd probably have to extend my definition to include those people. How about humans or things like humans?
Humans are things like humans.
Yeah.
Okay, so how like a human would someone have to fucking be?
I don't know. I guess we all just have this understanding of what humans are. I'm trying to imagine, like, I'm trying to imagine for your hypothetical, like,
Human, like,
what is
okay,
what is your definition of human that like are like different chromosomes and stuff? I'm not even sure. I like extreme hypotheticals, but I honestly don't know how to engage with this
I
one.
don't know. We could define it in different ways. You could say different species, a different genus. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but like all of these things are still like obviously human if we can all like reproduce together and have kids and like hang out and like understand each other and communicate with each other.
Let's say you couldn't reproduce with the rest of the species. So okay, every other being like that looks like a human isn't human. They have
So for this part of the argument, I would have to like sit down and like draw out because I'm not normally challenged on like what is the definition of a human being. Like we have kind of like this genetic understanding of it, but if you're going to ask me what if a different being existed that was exactly like a human but like a different genetic foundation, I don't know. I'd have to sit down and think about that like really hard. I guess I've never really engaged with a question like that before.
Okay, well, it sounds like you don't really care whether or not something's human. It sounds like you care about certain traits, like a certain
Oh no,
level
I know how excited you are to run down the name the trait argument, but I'm good on that one.
Well, wait. It sounds like you don't really care about humans.
No, I do care about humans, but like if you're going to construct like a hypothetical argument where we're all
That
humans but we're not humans, it's just like a really weird.
specific trait. You're saying that specific trait doesn't really matter too much to you because you just said, okay, what if there was an alien civilization that looked exactly like humans and acted like humans? Like you wouldn't be in favor of holocausting them, right?
I assuming that we like interact with them on a daily basis and everything, then sure, I guess not.
Yeah, so then the human part doesn't really matter. You're more worried about other traits like intelligence.
I guess whatever falls under the like human is like a socially constructed category, and the things that fall under that category of human, I guess, are things that I would care about.
Okay, social category. So name some of these things. Like, do you have to be a certain level of intelligence? Do you have to look a certain way, act a certain way?
I don't know. Things that would make us human, generally things like the ability, like these things would all be like in a cluster of characteristics, but removing any particular one of these probably wouldn't make you inhuman, but removing enough of them probably would.
We can stack traits. We can
Sure.
stack traits.
So having like 2 legs and 2 arms, having like a 3-part brain that gives you the ability to have like conversations and communicate complex thought and ideas, having some collection of senses that allow you to interact with the world and communicate such senses to people.
So a mentally disabled person who lacks those things, it's okay to just Holocaust them?
Probably not Holocaust them, no. But I mean, we treat those things as like possessions.
Okay, but why would it be wrong to Holocaust these people that don't have the traits that you find valuable?
Typically because those things are usually under the care of other people, and taking those things from those people would be considered immoral.
Okay, let's assume nobody cared.
Well, I guess if nobody cares, then knock yourself out, sure.
So you'd be fine with mentally disabled, crippled Holocaust?
Depends on, well, I don't know why you threw crippled in there. I don't think just being mentally disabled, though, is enough to make you inhuman. I don't think being crippled makes you inhuman as well.
Well, you said like 2 legs, 2 arms. So if somebody was like, crippled, disabled, mentally disabled to the point where they're lacking these traits that, you define as socially human, you'd be fine with holocausting them and turning them into like hamburgers?
Yeah, I guess. Would you not be?
Yeah, if they can experience well-being, if they want to live, I'd say that's immoral.
So let's say that you had like a hospital full of people that were like comatose or something.
Right.
Would you be in favor of like keeping those people alive indefinitely, or do you think those people should be euthanized?
No, okay, so if we had the technology and resources to keep them alive indefinitely, and assuming there's a small chance that they might wake up or something. Even then, I've known some people who've been in comas for a very, very long time, like 20 years, and they were actually in like this weird dreamlike state. If we actually had the technology and resources to accommodate those people, I would say it's probably wrong to, pull the plug and kill them, assuming they want to live.
Mm-hmm.
But because we live in a world of limited resources, there's only so many hospital beds, things like that. We do have to make those sort of accommodations. So
So
I
you're
think
saying
in
that the potentiality
real
of them
world-
having an experience past their coma makes them worthy of protection?
Yes, like that's assuming we have the resources to actually take care of them.
Gotcha. So then do you think that abortion is morally wrong since fetuses have a potentiality for experience past being born?
So, assuming the fetus is sentient, I've actually changed my position on abortion a bit. Assuming once sentience arises, I would say there are a number of situations where it'd be wrong to get an abortion. So,
So
say
any abortion that doesn't endanger the life of the mother is basically murder.
Not necessarily. There are some circumstances where I'd be in favor of abortion after the fetus becomes sentient.
Like what?
So, in a situation where a woman is raped and like they're forced to get pregnant, like they're kidnapped or something, and like situations like that.
What about a
there could
case
be
where a woman
situations
gets like, let's say a woman goes to a clinic and it finds out that the child is going to be like severely mentally disabled, like Down
yeah,
syndrome?
yeah.
So you're in
I would
favor of
say-
holocausting mentally disabled people then, in the forms of abortions?
Yeah, in the forms of abortions, just because I'd say it's more humane.
To infinitely
It's out of-
holocaust mentally disabled people. Then why is your position any different than mine?
Sorry.
How is your position any different than
okay,
mine?
so it's a form of mercy killing. I'd say there's a difference here because bodily autonomy of the mother also plays a role in like my moral distinction here.
Okay. So the autonomy of somebody else's comfort takes precedence over another human life?
Yeah,
Okay.
to some extent. So like if you have like someone a fetus growing inside you that is going to be severely mentally disabled, it's going to be a huge issue to take care of the person. It's living inside your body currently, and if you basically if you take it out of you, it'll die. I think that that added aspect to it where it is interfering with you personally, and it will interfere with you personally. Like, I mean, you're going to have to take care of it, and it's going to be an extra expense taking care of a child like this.
Sure. So if
With all those
genociding,
factors-
if genociding mentally retarded things for your comfort is admissible, didn't you just describe
Yeah,
all
it's
of
the
animal
same thing.
agriculture? You're just genociding retarded beings that are making your life better by doing it?
No. Well, we've already established you're not. Like, it's harming humanity, and you agreed with
Well,
it.
no, but I'm saying in terms of like personal comfort, like isn't like a pig just like a retarded human? Like couldn't you infinitely genocide them in order to eat them because it makes your life better? The same way that you could genocide like retarded fetuses in order to make the women's lives better?
No. Okay, so this is completely disanalogous. So, on the one hand, you're forcing animals to breed, whereas
What if you didn't force them? What if you just
this
put
case-
them in pens and you let them choose? You think they would abstain from sex?
Okay, well, they do actually have to force breeding. in
Yeah,
the
but I'm saying,
animal
let's say you let them
industry.
choose naturally, right? They're probably not going to be abstinent. Animals tend to like to
Right,
fuck. Yeah.
sure. Like, the issue there is you're. I don't know if you could really call that choosing.
What do you think animals do
Like,
normally when left to
forcing
their
them-
own devices?
You're forcing them into a situation. You're constructing a situation where something's inevitably going to happen.
Sure.
But I still see this as disanalogous because you are making these choices for another being, whereas you're making this choice for yourself. Like, okay, so either forcing other animals to breed or allowing them to breed on their own, like whatever hypothetical you want to use. You're the one ultimately choosing whether or not to basically kill the organism, whereas that's not the choice of the mother in that situation.
Well, what I'm saying is, what's the difference? So a mother can wander into a clinic and kill a mentally retarded fetus to make her life easier. Or I could just randomly wander into a forest and kill a deer to eat it to make my life easier. What's the difference between these two things?
The difference between these two things is the deer is not connected to your body. The deer has a much higher level of sentience. It's also not in a state where it will very likely experience, a lot of future hardship potentially. And the deer is also in a position where it can actually.
Wait, how could it not experience future hardship? Don't animals in the wilderness get like fucking murdered and shit all the time by other animals?
Well, sure, but I guess you could compare it to like standard within species, or you could look at like there's different hardships that a deer would face versus mentally like a
Well, sure.
mentally disabled and crippled person would face.
Sure. So if we look at standard within species, if we could factory farm animals to have happier lives than they would in the wilderness where they're getting like hunted and murdered all the time, would that make that farming more ethical than just leaving them to their own devices?
It would. Okay, so let me think. In one way, it would make it more ethical. In another way, it would not, because there's an exploitation element to it.
What does the exploitation matter if you're offering like protection and services? Like, does the animal care that it's being exploited at that point?
Okay, well, I do see exploitation as morally wrong. I think regardless of whether or not the being recognizes if it's exploitative or not. But anyway, the moral distinction that I'm making here is, for one thing, you're interfering with another organism, whereas in this case, the organism is interfering with your body, like the fetus. The fetus is also going to be at a much lower level of sentience, and I think just its level of brain development, it's not in a situation where it can even decide whether or not it actually wants to live. So there's a number of factors here, like bodily autonomy, the intelligence and the development of the fetus, whether or not it actually wants to live, potential future harm that you could be avoiding, and I mean the overall burden on the mother, like potential future burden. Like some people like literally just can't afford to have kids with special needs, at least not to that extent.
All of these are like surrounding issues that are seeming to complicate or nuance a lot. Like I feel like I could sidestep like all of these issues and create like an animal farm where animals run around and are free from like torture and all of that. And then just like once they've lived past the normal life expectancy of an animal in the wilderness, like I butcher it painlessly and eat it. And I feel like that would be more moral than letting them exist in the wilderness. Maybe if I argue that we should have like some moral compulsion to all sentient beings, I might even argue that that's more moral, that you actually have a compulsion to do factory farming over letting them roam freely, because that would cause more suffering to like animal sentience.
Okay, that could justify things like the apartheid. So you can look at quality of life measurements, like you can just ask for things like subjective level of happiness, average income, things like this, like crime rates. After the apartheid, the average income of black families, I think at least at one point, it dipped. Crime rates increased. A number of quality of life measures decreased after the apartheid. So just because you can find some sort of quality of life measurements improving if you're doing some like sort of farming thing like you're proposing here, that doesn't mean it's morally right. Again,
but we're not talking about the difference between like fully integrating animals into society with equal rights versus enslaving them. We're talking about the difference between them wandering around in nature and getting painfully and brutally murdered or having their balls eaten by other lions versus being like farmed. Now, in terms of like apartheid being moral or not, I would say apartheid is probably a bad thing compared to how humans normally choose to live. But my guess is that if there was a group of humans that could choose between being in an apartheid versus having to live in some like killing fortress where other humans were like raping and murdering them constantly.
Okay, well, you're talking about. Well, wait, you're talking about like an improvement here, and the improvement you're talking about is these quality of life measures, like you're less likely to die a horrible death. Like maybe your life will be happier overall. But you're also taking away these animals like freedom. You're systematically murdering them. I think it's hard to like ask a deer or a cow this, but I think most of them, if they had the intelligence to ask, they'd probably say, I'd prefer to live wild and have my own freedom, not be exploited, not have a determined death date, things like that. And
You
I think
think that an animal given the option between being able to live free and getting brutally murdered by some other hunter versus like having a predetermined death date where it lives a relatively stress-free and careless life, you think they'd choose the freedom option?
Humans do this.
Do you think that animals have the same desire? First of all, humans don't do this. You're just wrong.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do.
No, they
Okay,
don't.
they absolutely do. Humans absolutely do.
Humans,
look,
right? Every
are-
human being right now has the opportunity to like throw off the shackles of modern life and go live in a fucking forest if you want to. Nobody would choose that option. People
People
definitely
do that. What the fuck are you talking about? People do that. Are you insane? You're telling me no one has grown up in modern society and then chose to live out in the wilderness?
Not no one. I'm saying the vast majority, 99.999% of people choose to enslave themselves to society rather than live with absolute freedom.
Okay, dude.
We're not all the Unabomber.
Happens. Okay, bro. These sorts of things happen all the time where people do.
Can you
choose
quantify
harder
all
lives.
the time? What? Give me a percentage here.
I don't know, dude. Like people do choose to have harder lives. Okay.
Yeah, but they
and-
generally choose some restrictions to make their lives easier, like living in a society.
Sure.
Which brings with it a lot of rules. If I lived in a forest, I could run around naked all day. I could stand on my hands and jerk off into fucking trees. But I choose to restrict myself in a lot of fucking ways. And I think most people are okay with that trade-off.
Okay, well, like I'll give this example. There are like most women actually in Saudi Arabia. If you talk to them, they actually say they'd prefer to have the limited amount of rights they have now than have equal rights and responsibilities as men do.
Wait, that's just proving my argument. That people choose more restrictions in order to make themselves happier. So the animals would all want to wear burqas, basically, in the farm.
Not necessarily. So, like, I don't know where I was going with that. Now I totally forgot. But anyway, I think that like this is kind of off track. Anyway, the point that I should have really made first of all is, I see this as exploitative, like this farming thing that you're doing. I think there's a better option where we don't murder the animals and exploit them. I think that goes against their own interests. Like, okay, if their only choice they had was between the farm where they could live a happy life and then they have like a determined death day versus living out in the wilderness where they have to fend for themselves, I think some of them would prefer to live out in the wilderness. Some would prefer to live happy. I think humans would make a similar choice if they were in similar circumstances. Some would prefer the determined death day, some wouldn't. But we have like a third option where we just don't fuck with the animals.
What if you made a farm, but it was like open access? So if they wanted to, they could come and eat and stay. And if they wanted to, they could wander off and go somewhere else. But if they stayed at the farm, they got protection. And if they've been at that farm for more than 5 years, then you kill them because it's their due date. Do you think that would be moral or ethical?
No. The issue is, okay, is this assuming they know they're going to get killed?
I don't know. Can animals know such a thing?
Possibly.
Oh, then sure. I guess if they know they're going to be killed.
Wait,
you really think an animal can perceive like a future death day and understand that and comprehend that?
I think some might be intelligent enough. Some. So like, I don't know, very intelligent animals like whales, octopi, maybe like crows or something. Maybe.
Okay.
But the issue here is like you don't know. It's like if you were to have a gingerbread house out in the woods, like that a witch is running. Okay, well if the kids stay here and eat all this candy, after a while I'm gonna kill them. That's ethical. They chose to stay here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have an aspect of knowledge here. Like if the animals are totally ignorant to this, then I'd say it's immoral. If somehow like an animal could know this and they're like willingly choosing it, then I can't come up with like an argument against that. But I think you'd agree. Most animals aren't going to be aware that, okay, the nice man who's giving me food and protection is going to murder me eventually.
How do we know if the animal knows?
Okay, we kind of have to assume that they wouldn't know. I'd
How can
imagine
you
most
assume that they
animals
have
would
sentience,
agree.
but assume like lack of knowledge on their part about this? How could you know that?
Okay, well, assuming sentience and assuming lack of knowledge are very different things. I mean,
We
we
all
can
have
assume
similar brain structures, right? If sentience arises from the similarity in brain
okay,
structures between
well,
these two species.
sentience and knowledge are two completely different. Sentience, knowledge, and intelligence are
Mhm.
like completely different fucking things.
Yeah, I agree. But in terms
So,
of mammals, we all have like this kind of like
okay,
prefrontal
well, yeah, a
cortex,
baby.
midbrain.
Okay,
Mhm.
sure. So, like a baby, similar brain structure to us. So, if I ask a baby, okay, touch the gun if you want me to blow your head off, and the baby touches the gun, I should just assume that it has the knowledge and intelligence to know that it want
Not a
like them to
baby, but
blow
we
its
would
head
wait
off.
for them to be fully developed as like an adult in that species. So I'm all I'm curious of asking is like, how can you tell
Okay,
me that a
well, when it
dog?
comes
How can you tell me
to
that a dog, you know, because a dog's similar brain structure to us gives rise to sentience in the dog, but you don't know whether or not it can understand future events? How can you know one but not the other?
well, it can understand future events. It just might not necessarily understand that you're going to kill it. It doesn't understand things like language. It can't understand context like we can.
So there's no way to communicate that to like a dog at all? What if you had like pictures laid out or like it saw other dogs being killed after eating like 50 times or something?
Um, it is possible that an animal would know that it's going to end up being killed.
Mm-hmm.
That does happen. Like I've seen like horrible shit from the Yulin Dog Festival where dogs know they're about to be killed and they do everything they can to escape.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the issue is just the way its brain works. It's not going to be able to like you're not going to be able to show it a photo, it be able to see and understand the photo and be like, this is going to be you in 3 months. Like a dog's brain doesn't really work like that. It kind of has to like see right in front of it something
Mm-hmm.
that's going on, and then it can make the connection there, but it's not going to understand like, okay, in 3 months or in 2 years or whatever, how
Mm-hmm.
long you're planning on raising these animals, I'm going to kill you and eat you. Like it's just not going to understand that. Like their brains just don't work that way.
It's interesting that you can be so positively sure that they have sentience, but then also be positively sure that their minds are so. How do you know that, like, I'm curious, how do you know that the understanding of like
You can
past and
see fucking
future,
behavior.
how do you, behavior doesn't prove sentience?
No, I'm not talking about behavior proving sentience. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can look at animal behavior. Dogs can lose track and like forget things like
Mm-hmm.
almost instantly if they're
Yeah,
distracted.
so can
So if
humans with
you,
ADHD, right?
so, no, not in the same way.
Sometimes
So
even worse, yeah.
sorry.
Sometimes even worse, they could lose. Yeah, sure.
Okay, no, still not in the same way. If you tell a human being, even with ADHD, that I'm going to kill you in 2 years, and then you distract it with something, it'll still, like, the human being will probably still remember that.
I don't know. Human beings make a lot of strange decisions when there are delayed consequences. I mean, we have horrible diets. We engage in things like pollution. We don't exercise enough. And like, there's all like pretty clear indicators that if you do this, like how many people go to the hospital with obesity and they're looking for like, diabetes medication. The doctor's like, hey, you need to eat less or you're going to die. And then they keep eating and then they die. Seems like pretty common. How many people don't wear masks because of the
That's okay.
coronavirus? Like,
So
yeah.
that's not okay. Those are two different things. You're talking about delayed consequence, making
Mm-hmm.
people forget that there's a consequence. They're
Mm-hmm.
not forgetting that there's a consequence. It's just that they have like a mental disorder or they have an addiction or something like that, or they just personally care more about the short-term pleasure than the long-term consequence.
Yeah, so how could you differentiate between whether or not a dog cares more about the short-term pleasure versus the long-term consequence, rather than he just doesn't have the foresight to know what's going to happen? How could you possibly have this
There
much
are
insight into the
okay,
dog
so
mind?
there are behavioral. Oh my, I don't know why I can't pronounce that.
Mm-hmm.
There's behavioral
Behavioral, yeah.
experiments, yeah,
Uh-huh.
with dogs where you can actually look at their attention span and you can look at their memory retention.
Mm-hmm.
So you can probably just look this up on YouTube if you use the right keywords. So what you can do is you can put a bunch of bowls in front of a dog, and then you can put like the treat in one of the bowls.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the dog doesn't get any distractions, it will remember where that treat is. Now, if you put the food in the bowl and it's covered, and then you give the dog some sort of distraction, or you have it leave the room for a certain amount of time, it won't remember where that thing is. Like it has to search for it now. Other animals, like pigs, they're actually much better than dogs at this sort of thing. Where if you put the food like covered in the bowl, and then you have it leave the room for like 30 minutes, the pig will actually remember right like where it was. So certain animals are better at that sort of thing than others, but I mean, when you're talking about the span of 3 months or 2 years, however long you're planning on raising a particular animal, like even better animals that are better at this, like pigs, they're probably not going to remember. And again, you're going to have to even ensure that you can communicate the sort of thing to them where, okay, you're going to die in like 2 months. Like they don't understand language. It's kind of difficult to show them like photos of something. And even if it's something like graphic that happens in front of them, they might just forget just because of the way their brains work. You also have to factor in too, like because they're not terribly intelligent animals, if you care for them and feed them and stuff, they're going to develop some sort of like trust where like maybe they'd think, okay, you're not going to do that to them.
Yeah, sure. If you think that animals like being free is generally more moral than like taking care of them and whatever at some predetermined date or whatever, killing them, how do you justify things like pet ownership? Isn't that like a form of like animal slavery?
I am totally and utterly against the pet industry. I think animal breeding is completely and horribly wrong. I think it's fine to own a pet if you rescue them, and all my pets are rescued. So
shouldn't you like rescue it and set it free in the wilderness, though? Wouldn't that be the more moral thing to do?
No, because they'd end up dying, getting run over by a car, starving to death.
Wait, aren't you describing the existence of like every cow or pig that would be released into the wilderness?
Well, we wouldn't release cows and pigs into the wilderness. That especially pigs, dude. That'd be a horrible fucking environmental disaster. Pigs actually survive very well in the wild. Not so sure about cows, but yeah, you wouldn't want to release domesticated animals out into the wild. It would be, especially pigs, it'd be an environmental disaster.
So you would just let them go extinct?
Yeah, yeah. We should have these animals go extinct.
Gotcha. Wait, you don't own cats, right?
I have a cat, and it is being fed a vegan diet. It's been on a vegan diet for 7 months now, and perfectly healthy, nothing wrong with it. We've gotten cat several health checkups. It's healthy, happy kitty. And you can feed a cat a vegan diet, by the way.
Do you think that it's like...
I know there's a lot of fuckers in the chat who are gonna like fucking blow up right now.
Do you think that it's like... Do you think you would be like morally righteous if you were to become like a cat Rambo and go around like murdering cats, since most of them are fed all meat diets?
Okay, so with regards to wild animals, I've actually debated this with Dr. Avi. I don't know if you know of him, but yeah, I can't find. I haven't been able to come up with a good counter argument against killing
like apex predators.
Like predatory animals, like I don't know, eagles, lions, things like that. Unless it would end up causing more deaths because of how they fit into their own ecological niche. I can't think of a good argument against killing these animals, these predatory animals. But the thing is, cats can be fed a vegan diet, so just switching people onto their cats onto a vegan diet, I think that would solve that problem.
Gotcha.
Like we're talking about domesticated animals.
So you think it's okay to kill like predator animals that like sit at the top of the food chain or whatever?
Assuming that killing them would not result in more suffering and death of their prey species, then I would say yes.
So would you be okay holocausting that group of natives on that island you talked about if they were all meat eaters?
Okay, if they could be fed a vegan diet, then I'd be fine.
But in order to teach them a vegan diet, you'd have to be able to communicate with them, and all they want to do is rape and murder people.
Not necessarily. You could just drop food onto their island, and they'd just eat that.
But if you dropped food and they ate it, but then they went back to like raising and murdering animals, you think it'd be ethically justifiable to holocaust that island of people?
Yeah, maybe. If there was no way to actually get them on a vegan diet, like indefinitely, then sure.
Okay. Well, are there any other points you want to go over?
I don't know, man. Pretty exhausted. It's like 3 a.m. here, so.
Okay.
Well, yeah, this was fun though.
Yeah, I like screaming at you. It's fun to hang out. I don't hate you or anything. I look forward to all the vegan response videos to this conversation. So.
I feel very much the same. It's let's do it again sometime.
Yeah. All right. Well, have fun. Stay safe, buddy. Be careful.
Take care.
Bye. I have exhausted my patience for vegan arguments for the rest of the year, okay? I gave you your vegan argument, and now we're done with them, okay? For the rest of the year. Oh, God. I'm probably going to ban all vegan topics for the next, like, week and a half, because I can already see all the fucking vegans are frothing at the fucking mouth to like, make fucking dumbass response videos about how I would kill all the Jews or some crazy, stupid shit. I know that one lady, I don't remember her name, whatever, is probably already like, oh, God, he fucking wants to murder. But I'm not going to do any response to response videos or watching all of the militant fucking vegans that are fucking frothing at the mouth of this. At the end of the day, whether or not you want to protect animals or animals and humans, it's all some fucking, it's all some arbitrary fucking choice. It's all bullshit. You can't actually, like, from some meta ethics point, give like some concrete, unless you believe like in some objective fucking moral realism bullshit, all right? Unless you're going to start screaming at me in German, okay? There's no fucking way you're convincing me of any of that bullshit. So you know what? Fuck animals, fuck vegans, fuck all that shit. But if somebody wants to argue, hey, veganism or vegetarianism is really good for the environment, so we should probably reduce our animal agriculture, you know what? I can get behind that argument. Yeah, fucking A, dude. So if people want to pass laws or some shit related to that, yeah, fuck it. I'd be on board. Sure.
You know, I thought we had peaked when he justified North Korea arresting people that arrive in their country. But then 3 sentences later, he started talking about eugenics. Oh.
I think the peak for this conversation was every sentence in this study is wrong, but these 2 numbers actually prove me correct. I think that was the peak of that conversation. I have one question. You said that purchasing meat does no direct harm, so you don't really change behavior on an individual level. Do you think this applies to voting as well? As in, one person voting or not voting doesn't change anything? And if so, why do you think people should vote if you do? Yeah, no, I agree that the same thing applies to voting as well. I think that if there are behaviors that we need all of society to do, but if one individual doesn't do them, it doesn't cause any harm, that behavior needs to be legislated. I think that this is like the free rider problem, right, Irk? Aren't we basically just talking about a free rider problem? This is why I think voting should be compulsory. I vote because I talk about like political issues and shit. So like, I think that it's probably important to vote because it shows that I'm committed to what I'm talking about. But like, I do think it's hard if voting like represented like a big hurdle to somebody's like free time or some shit. Like, yeah, fuck it. Then yeah, I could understand people like saying like, yeah, fuck it. Like my one vote won't matter, which is why it should be compulsory, I think. Yeah. I love you guys. It's been a real one. Stay safe. Stay safe. It's called the U.S. flag, you stupid fuck. This is the only flag that the United States federally has and recognizes. Why the fuck are you acting like a different... Ripper in a cappuccino, cappuccino, my dirty nose.